Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
'Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. There's still time. The AFTN Soccer Show, broadcasting on CITR Radio 101.9 FM from the unceded Musqueam Territory at the University of beautiful and very, very wet British Columbia. I'm Michael McCall.
And I'm Zachary Eisenhammer.
And don't cry me a river. Definitely don't cry me an atmospheric river. But I said at the end of the last show, Zach, maybe we'll both have a lot of things to celebrate next weekend. Maybe not going to be the most joyous of shows, but I'm trying to make this a show for everyone. So we're going to talk Whitecaps in part 1. We're going to talk Vancouver FC and CPL in part 2, women's soccer and the NSL in part 3, and Canadian national team in part 4. A smorgasbord of Canadian football. If you can't find something in this show to enjoy, I don't know what you're looking for. Might not enjoy the first 2 parts, but I mean, parts 3 and parts 4, I mean, that they might be fun and upbeat. Yeah, so much football to talk about, so much not great football to talk about. We'll get into all of that very soon. As always, though, Zach, how has your week been? How did the atmospheric river affect Abbotsford?
My week's been very full. Lots going on. Yeah, I haven't looked on the news too much or anything, but me personally, it's been fine.
I had to drive out to Langley on Saturday morning to do commentary. Made it through the very bad conditions on the highway, got there, got to Willoughby Stadium, and it was not fit for broadcasting a football match from. And I mean, we'll come a little bit to Willoughby Stadium in this part when we're talking some Whitecap stuff. But I mean, I know that's not the most pressing need for the City of Langley, Vancouver FC, or the stadium itself. But that is a press box that is not fit for purpose. It's basically 2 tents that is open to the elements, and in the elements on Saturday, it looked like it was going to blow away.
Yeah, I mean, calling
it a press box is
very generous.
Yeah.
It's not a press box. Yeah, whatever.
No, it was flooded. There was just water all over the place. It did make me think if Vancouver FC had been at home on Saturday, that would have made for an interesting attendance for every aspect of it.
A bunch of the fanatics were talking about that. No one would have been there, but we would have been wet for 90 minutes and it would have been memorable.
It would have been. It would have been like Whitecaps, Puerto Rico Islanders, but minus the thunderstorm.
The thunderstorm, yeah. I couldn't be at that game. I think I was working.
Yeah, it's one of my most memorable ones from the USL era. I mean, it would have been memorable if I don't think I would have gone out to the VFC game. I was only going out because I had work. And when we went up and we looked around, and I was like, yeah, we can't broadcast from this. They didn't even they were going to just do the video stream in the end with no commentary, but then that got canned. But yeah, it's been a crazy weekend for weather. I was very amazed that so many games in the lower mainland went on. Hopefully everyone, though, listening to this is safe and the properties are safe, and just the worst time of year with all the leaves blocking the drains as well. And Yeah. So hopefully everyone's been safe with this, and it looks like it's going to be dry, at least for the little bit. And the only rain that we might be seeing is tears of rain from Whitecaps fans after the playing game on Wednesday night.
I think, oh yeah, I was gonna say, okay, after that game, sure. I was gonna say, I think there's more like not tears, but it's more like it's not tears, it's anger.
It's rage right now
Rage, yeah.
for many reasons, and we'll get over this. And I think that kicks things off nicely for us to start things off in part one. Actually, before I get into that, I'll start with some really good news. UBC's women's team went into tonight's game, which was meant to be last night, but Trinity Western's field was also unable to be played. So it was played tonight at Willoughby Stadium. One thing I'll say about Willoughby Stadium, that pitch holds the water well and drains well. Because I went
Well,
on the pitch yesterday and it is actually like really good from that aspect.
it is the highest rated turf pitch in all of British Columbia.
Oh,
You didn't know that?
no. If only they could get the floodlights to match.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
felt I was watching it with Subbuteo floodlights.
Yeah. No, it's a higher rated surface than BC Place.
That would not be difficult. My neighbour's AstroTurf that they put in their porch looks better than the BC Place one.
That's not fair to BC Place. It's nice when it's new. It's nice when it hasn't been crushed by monster cars.
Yeah, or dirt for Supercross races.
Yeah, Supercross. There you go.
Yes. I mean, I wonder when the next one of that might be. That might get covered in this part. But yeah, I want to give a big shout out to the UBC women. They went into the game tonight against their old foes, Trinity Western, came away with a 2-0 win, which gave them a record for the season, 14 wins from 14 matches, the Invincibles.
I hear it always has to do with how good your commentator is.
Commentator, and I guess the coach and the players. But
Oh, that too, yeah.
the only disappointing thing is Jay Taylor Ryan fell 1 point short of equaling the all-time points record in a season. So
Well, I think we're gonna have some interesting conversations about falling one short.
falling short in many ways, I think, could be the big focus of discussion in these first two parts. So there's our
Very well could
segue to get into part one. We're going to talk Whitecaps, and their playoff path is set. 4 weeks ago, if you had said to people, you're going to miss the top 7 by 3 points, never mind the top 4, you're going to be in a play-in game, you're going to be the hosts of that play-in game, but you're not going to be able to host. You have to go to your arch nemesis in Lower Cascadia and play the game you should be hosting on their turf. I think folk would have been like, something's gone badly wrong.
Yeah.
And something has gone badly wrong. The playoff path is set, and it's not a good one, because if they do happen to get through that, guess who will be playing next? Someone new, maybe? No.
LAFC, right? It's
LAFC in a best of 3.
Yeah.
Although that went down to the wire. Like,
Yes, it did.
Did you watch the Galaxy highlights?
No. I've only seen the only full highs I've seen is Portland, Seattle.
Right.
Yeah.
So once RSL took the lead, spoiler if anyone hasn't watched the game and they're just wanting to find out in the show, highly unlikely, but once RSL went 2-1 up, and it was pretty obvious the outcome with Minnesota running riot in St. Louis as well, I thought, oh, let's see how the two LA teams are doing. And LAFC were winning, and Houston were beating the Galaxy 1-0. And I was like, oh, let's stick the Galaxy game on, because that's going to be an interesting one now. Galaxy got a penalty in stoppage time. 7 minutes of stoppage time were added on. Gabriel Peck fired the penalty home in the 96th minute. It's 1-1. Galaxy back on top of the West. That's who the Whitecaps were facing. Somehow, the game got to the 101st minute, and Houston found a winner. Galaxy are second, and it's LAFC against Whitecaps or Portland. I think I know where my money is in that one, but I mean, incredible ending.
I know Orwin because of Joe Cannon's Instagram stories, or his wife's Instagram stories, because they were playing LAFC, right? San Jose.
Yes.
So he was down there and yeah, taking pictures with, the people you would imagine, like his kids wanted pictures with the people you could imagine who they were. And I think one of his things, I think it was about the result. I think he was like, sorry, earthquakes. So
I mean, it was a fantastic ending. If anyone hasn't seen the highlights for that, watch it. It's like
yeah,
Houston. I mean, they deserved it as well. And like the Galaxy, talk about the Whitecaps blowing it. I mean, the Galaxy blew first. They had a huge lead at one point. And of the two LA teams, genuinely, I would quite liked us to have got the Galaxy in the playoffs, susceptible at the back, not in a good run of form, and Carson is not as it's not as
formidable.
intimidating an
Yes,
atmosphere
absolutely.
as LAFC Stadium as well. So yeah, so it's not a great path. We'll come to that in a little bit, but we're not going to delve hugely into the ins and outs of the RSL game. We'll talk about the main points coming out of it. It was a 2-1 loss in Sandy. I mean, just your overall thoughts of the game, just to kick it off, Zach.
I mean, it was interesting, I think, right? You had Bomer, right? That was one of the things that kind of stood out. Like Vanny said, I think we talked about on the show a number of times. Vanny said, if things are not up in the air at the end, then he'll get time. He'll get to see the pitch. And I think it's might be a little bit harsh, but that played a role in the match.
Yeah. I mean, to be
Um,
fair as well, Portland's been doing that with James Pantemis.
well, Penton seems like he's usurped.
I
I don't know if it's just the national team duty or has he usurped? I don't
I
know.
don't know. I don't know if it was just to have him comfortable in there just in case. I guess we'll see on Wednesday night whether it's Max or James. But like James has done really well. But
Yeah,
that's a whole other thing. But yeah, like that. Let's start with the starting lineup then. Couple of surprises. Bomer in.
yeah,
Faber Caicedo getting the
yeah,
start up front. 3-4-3 formation.
yeah,
And in a must-win game, your three DPs on the bench.
yep,
Now, I understand why they did it, and I've had some fans saying it's a bit of a defeatist attitude if it's the reasoning that I think of, which is they were playing the odds. I think they expected Minnesota to get the job done in St. Louis. They maybe wanted to see what it was like at half time. And if they needed to bring the big guys on in the second half to get that win and to get seventh, they would do that. And if they didn't, they would maybe rest them. Now, in the end, it ended up being a bit of a hybrid. I'm not sure the guys needed to come on, but they did get a bit of a run out.
yeah.
But it was an interesting choice. And to be honest, I didn't mind it because I always thought Minnesota were going to get the job done in St. Louis.
That's fair, but and we'll talk about this later. In the next part, I think a little bit is like in such a crucial match on multiple levels, can you really, can you really rely on making those types of changes in the second half to go for it, right? When it's so
Mhm.
huge, like
Well,
should
you've
you?
also got the chemistry aspect as well,
Yeah,
of which there's
totally.
none in the team right now.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
And I understand like six guys, six key guys, five of them arguably starters, have just come back from international duty and
Hmm.
some big flights. So, I
Yep.
mean, I totally get that as well. I see why they did it. On the whole, I kind of don't mind it. My only worry is the chemistry aspect now for going into Wednesday.
Yeah, and well, and the debacle around Wednesday, right?
Well, yeah, yeah. I
I
mean, that's
mean,
going to suck. No matter what they might be publicly saying and how they're trying to spin it, it's going to suck a lot out of the team. It's deflating for the fans. It's deflating for the players, I'm sure, and the organisation. It's out of their hands a bit, which we'll come into to all of that. But I don't know if that maybe explained the first half because it was a dreadful first half. And I mean, the last 5 minutes, it maybe picked up a little bit. And when they put up 7 minutes of stoppage time, I tweeted out 7 minutes more in this half, said nobody watching the game because you did not want. I mean, if at halftime, if you'd said to me, what did you enjoy most of the match? I would have said the final whistle. But the second half was at least entertaining.
Yeah.
But I mean, the first half, there was nothing at all. There was nothing from the team. And that is also concerning because this was a moment for some of these guys to kind of step up and maybe show what they could do. I thought Blackman on the whole had a good game. Obviously, he had a hand to maybe play in the winning goal, but like Blackman did well, Berhalter did well, Bomer did well for about 80 odd minutes. Came up with a huge save in the first minute.
Oh yeah, he had moments. He had positive moments. It's just when you're talking about
one
decisive
mistake
moments
that's going to haunt him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, the second half gets up and running. Whitecaps on the front foot. There's a ball that came in that White, I think, could have done better with, but then they get a penalty. Schopf goes down in the box. I tweeted out, that's not a penalty. You see the replays and you're like, that's going to go to VAR. Took a fucking long time to go to VAR. Took an equally long time for them to look at it from all the different angles, and the penalty stood. And I know the angle from behind the goal shows that there's a foot on the ground, but it just looks like Schopf just trips over it.
Without talking about what comes next, is it possible this is one of those moments where they've had so many things in the past go against them that this is one of those things that just went their way that maybe shouldn't have?
Well, I was like, it was the Apple gods going, yeah, we've taken stuff away from them. Maybe give them a little carrot. I mean, it'd been more heartbreaking if we'd won this game and still fucked up being in the top 7. I think to me that would actually have been more heartbreaking. But I mean, did you think it was a penalty?
No, I tend to agree with you. I think it was a little bit generous. Yeah.
The guy planted his foot, Schopf fell over it. Now, our good friend Darnell said that it would be hard for the VAR to overturn that decision on the pitch.
Yeah, it was a little bit reminiscent for me of, and I've talked about this a long time ago on the show, but and I was in the stadium for this, Italy, Australia, round of 16, 2006 World Cup. I can't remember the defender. Makes a sliding tackle, and I can't remember if it was Pirlo or who it was, but it's like he sees the leg and he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna fall over that. Like it was like kind of delayed. Not the exact same situation, obviously, but yeah, a little bit reminiscent of that, where you're just like, yeah, that shouldn't be given as a penalty.
No, I don't think Schopf dived. I think he just genuinely just fell over the guy's foot.
Oh no, and whatever Italian attacker that was, I mean, it might have been Totti. Whoever it was, it technically it wasn't a dive. It was like, I'm going to make sure that I run into the leg and fall down, go down because I hit that thing, you know what I mean? Or hit that leg. So yeah.
I mean, it threw the Whitecaps a lifeline. Up steps Fafa Pico. He just needs that one goal or that one assist to trigger the new contract.
Exactly. This was the moment. The moment I'm referencing earlier. Like it's so huge on so many levels.
Yep. Vanny said it's been playing on his mind a little bit.
You think?
He steps up. He leans way back. And now the penalty has joined Robert Earnshaw's free kick in the orbit around your anus.
It was very,
it makes you wonder, does he want to be here next year?
Michael, he's your favorite.
He is. I'm joking, but I mean, you just saw it on his face as well, and it's like normally Brian would be taking that.
Yeah,
and obviously he was taking it for this reason.
Yeah. So that's Vanny's decision, right? That's got to be a pre.
That would be an interesting one to know. Did they decide that on the pitch? Was it pre? I'm sure it was pre.
I'm assuming it wasn't
here next year, please.
Yeah,
please
I'm sure it wasn't
assist.
I'm sure it wasn't D'Agostino, right? Like I don't think he would have made that decision pre-game. Like, hey, this is what we're gonna do. I think very much it had to have been like a pre, just like with the lineup. It's a pre.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. Decision. And it's like Michael had the AirPods in for the whole game and he's chatting away. So, I mean, he's clearly in full contact with Vanny. I loved Har tweeted out before the game, she spoke to Brian White and she asked what the difference is between having D'Agostino and Sartini in the dugout. And Michael or Brian was like, one's a little bit less Italian than the other, but only
Yeah.
just.
Oh, yeah.
That's up there for one of my quotes of the year. Um, I like the calmness he brings to the dugout because, and I've said this countless times over the years, how the dugout acts on the sideline influences how the players act on the pitch a lot of the time.
You think?
Yeah.
Of course.
Not all the time. Like we have Big Dick at East Fife, but he sits in the stand. Although he did go down to the touchline and get sent off. That is why he mostly sits in the stand. But yeah, and that was the chance for the Whitecaps to go ahead, and you thought, okay, they fucked it up totally now. They're definitely going to be eighth. Ryan Gauld comes on in the 57th minute. Ryan Gauld scores in the 58th minute. An immediate impact. The one that makes
shot.
the coach look brilliant with the substitution. And when I had to put it back right away because it's like, oh, did Fafa get the assist in that? Because I wasn't really paying full attention. And then it's like, oh no, it's just the defender's clearance.
Yeah.
But it was a lovely finish from Ryan.
Totally. Yeah. A great shot.
And again, it kind of just shows the quality of the team when Gauld is on the pitch and when Gauld is not on the pitch.
Absolutely.
But he wasn't the key difference maker in this game. Because for me, RSL's Diego Luna was tremendous from start to finish in this one. An absolute terror. And he had a couple of chances in the first half. And what a finish on the equaliser. Gets the ball, cuts and finishes past Bomer. Took it so well. Great pass to set it up as well. Maybe questionable defending, but yeah, I mean, Luna was just tremendous last night.
Yeah, he did really stand out. And like you said, really, really well taken goal.
Then the winner, 83rd minute, officially down as a Isaac Bomer own goal. Ball comes in. Bomer comes out for it, just doesn't get it. I don't know if he took his eye off it for a second, if Tristan coming in had put him off. Whatever it was just a split-second mistake by him. Hits off his shoulder, into the net. Blackman tries his best to get it off the line, can't clear it. And RSL have the lead and what proved to be the winner. And I really felt for Isaac. It was such a big moment for him. He's not the kind of guy, I don't think, that's going to beat himself up on it because he's that kind of chill guy. And it was nice afterwards. D'Agostino, Ryan Gauld, Colin Miller on the radio as well. They were like, goalkeepers make mistakes. And the problem is everyone makes mistakes. Ryan said in the post game, I made a mistake. I gave the ball away and it almost led to a goal. The problem is when you're a goalkeeper, it's highlighted tenfold. You make a great save, it's highlighted tenfold. You make a mistake like that, there's nowhere to hide.
And those listening, or those who are regular listeners to the show, know how high we've been on his performances this year and his quality. And yeah, but you're right.
Cup.
That's right. But you're right. You're right. It was just this one moment where he mishandles the cross and it bounces off like his shoulder or outside of his arm or something or whatever. And that trickle into the net is like so painful, man. Like you just feel so bad for him. And then
I've seen folk like, well, that ends the whole Yohei versus Bomer argument. It does not.
No,
it's like he's really going to challenge Yohei next year.
Yeah,
and we'll get into that in our end of season show next week. And that battle next year is going to be one of the key battles. And you have to think if Isaac wins it, Yohei's gone because he's not going to want to stay here as a number 2.
No, and you told me Taka has one more guaranteed year, right?
As far as I know, yeah, I'd have to double check that. But, or if not, it's definitely an option year. And like he's going to be back. There's no way that they're not going to bring him back. I mean, it's Takaoka's to lose. And let's not forget Takaoka's made a couple of howlers this year as well.
Oh, for real?
Goalkeepers do that. It's like, it's the nature of the job, unfortunately. You're from hero to zero in seconds.
Yeah. But it was just a horrible end to a really unfortunate decline at the end of the season. It was like a inverse negative exclamation point to like, yeah, like it was all I could see. Yeah, I could see some Whitecaps fans watching that and be like, of course, that's how the season is.
But
Very difficult.
like it genuinely is surprising to me because it wasn't that long ago we were looking at the games in hand, and it's like, you know what, they could be if they can get the win against LAFC, they could be sitting second, and they would have
It's
been sitting
crazy.
second.
Yeah, that is crazy at how far they've fallen in such a short period of time. Like you said, 4 weeks or whatever. Yeah.
It's winless in the last seven. And I know I said this on a previous show, and I was partly joking, but I am genuinely meaning it as well. That is relegation material in a normal league.
Mm.
And they are so lucky that they clinched the playoff spot when they did, because like the last seven games, a draw at Houston, a loss at the Galaxy, a draw at home to Portland, and then four straight losses to end. Seattle, Minnesota, LAFC, RSL. They've scored against LAFC, but that was an own goal. Then Gold gets the one yesterday. They did score against Portland. So, I mean, looking ahead to Wednesday, so it's officially 8th v 9th play-in. Is it play-in? Is it wild card? I don't know what we're calling it. Seems to be
I've heard some
wild
people calling it
card.
wild card. I thought that's
Yeah. There's other
interesting.
folks saying, well, are they officially in the playoffs? If I had a bet to make that the Whitecaps were in the playoffs, have they made the playoffs?
They made the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, to me, they've made the playoffs.
Yeah.
Stroke postseason.
Dwayne Rollins would disagree.
Oh, really?
No, just I don't know what he's saying now, but you remember back in the day, the first time the Whitecaps made the postseason, it was in the playing game, and there were people like individuals like Dwayne were like, "That's not the playoffs, that's the play-in."
I think that is possibly why they're just calling it the wild card now. So we'll get into the stadium debacle in a sec. Let's just look ahead to the game. So Portland were up here not that long ago. It was a 1-1 draw in a game that the Whitecaps should have won.
And it was at a time that was shortly after the Voyageurs Cup victory,
Yes.
right? Which is one thing I wanted to say there before we totally jump into the playoff thing is some people, like I've said, and like we've seen in previous seasons, is this a hangover from that?
Because I mean, it's a big hangover. How much champagne did they have?
Well, you know,
no, I know.
You can lose your form so quickly in football, right? Like,
oh yeah. I mean, I again, like Robbo was so maligned for saying his fine lines thing, but it's very true.
Oh, very.
Football is fine lines. The margins, especially in MLS, where there is so much parity. Like, you look at the LA teams, and I think they have been the class act all season in MLS West. And Seattle and RSL is probably the next best two teams, so understandable that they are in the top four. But there's very little to choose, really, between third place and probably down to 10th, 11th between the teams. Like, there's no teams that you look at and you're like, oh, I'm terrified of going to play them.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not wrong. It's just interesting to see that the form fell off the map coinciding with, lifting the Voyageurs Cup again. And I don't say that in a way of like, oh, well, you obviously don't want to win the Voyageurs Cup next year, because you do. You want winning to be a habit. You want winning to be what defines you as a football club and as a coach and as players and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it is a little bit concerning, because I think that's what happened with the first Voyageurs Cup victory in like 2015, and I don't know if it was last year or the year before, or I think there was a similar kind of, definitely not as drastic, but a similar drop off where you're like, does that play a role? Is it too much? Standing on a ship with a mission accomplished banner behind you when the season's not over, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I have seen some fans saying online, and I missed this in the post-game show last night. I didn't listen to all the calls, but there was a guy on it that was very critical that, and this echoes comments I've seen online, that the Whitecaps put priority on winning the Canadian Championship over the league and the playoffs, and most fans don't give a shit about the Canadian Championship. North American fans, all they care about is the playoffs. And although I don't agree with that, that is the mindset of a lot of fans.
Yeah, and that's where the Whitecaps have always been in this place of this. There's a bit of a delicate balance where you're playing to a certain type of sports culture while also, for lack of a better term, trying to educate a sports culture to what is valuable, within the sport itself. And remember, Michael, it's not simply them saying, "Hey, we want to win, the Voyageurs Cup just to have a trophy." For them, it's also CONCACAF Champions League entry,
Yes. But again, that's another tournament that, as much as we know the importance of it, folk are like, yeah, we do not care about this. And if we can't end up playing our games at BC Place anyway for it, why should we care about it?
But here's the thing, right? If they somehow won the CONCACAF Champions League, everyone would care about it, because they'd be in a World Club Cup where they're playing, the massive teams of the world, or at least a couple of massive teams of the world, depending on the year. well, yeah, depending on the year and depending on the format of the competition. But yeah. Sorry, I took us on a little tangent there.
No, but it's very important discussion to have. While we're having that discussion, I thought I'm just going to look at just the overall form guide for MLS. And the Whitecaps have the worst form of the 29 teams. They're the only team to be winless in the last 7. Every other team, including San Jose, have managed to get a win in that time. That is like staggering. And one of the other worst, and possibly the second worst, is Portland, who are going into this game on Wednesday, 5 games winless. 4 of those, though, were at least draws.
But also with a trophy to show for it.
Yes, Cascadian Cup champs. And I mean, you watched the highlights of that. I just saw the goals. I mean, how did Portland look to you? They put out a strong team. It was all their main guys, and they came back from behind to come away with a 1-0 draw at Seattle, lift the Cascadia Cup. And if they'd got a second goal, they would have been rightly hosting the play-in game, which I think would maybe have made things at least a little bit better.
Yeah, the pill would not have been as bitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was they were okay. They did what they needed to do. I'm guessing that on some level, maybe not the players, but I'm sure the coaches or whatever knew that, hey, we just need to get in and we're hosting. Because as you talked about in the previous show, this was not this was something that was being worked on for a while behind the scenes. I think about the possibilities of what was going to happen with this game, the playing game. And so, but yeah, they did what they needed to do. They're in the postseason. They have the Cascadia Cup. And yeah, I think whenever for any, Portland Timbers supporters, whenever you can lift the Cascadia Cup away to Seattle, it's special.
Oh, yeah. And our good friend Peter was down having to present it. He looked a picture of misery in some of the photos that I saw.
Peter and Kevin, we're down there. It's we didn't, so we did.
Well, yeah, I mean, although we had to hand it over, what was that, 2009, maybe 2010, but I think 2009. That was an epic moment. I loved that. We got a police escort onto the pitch. We had to walk around in our Southsider scarves to the Timbers Army end.
Yeah, but you're forgetting before.
I'm trying to block before that out of my mind. If you're talking about how long we were kept at the border.
Yeah, Michael didn't have his, or you needed your new documentation to get through the border, which meant we had to go inside, which meant it took a while. So,
but then they also they made the mistake of looking in the car and they saw a big shiny cup.
No, but the part I remember about that, Michael, was, I mean, I remember the border stuff, but I don't know if you remember this. So we walk into the stadium. How many minutes had been played? 20 minutes? 30 minutes?
Oh, yeah, because we were late and we couldn't get parking.
Yeah. So we get into the stadium. The game's like well underway. And I just remember friends from Portland later saying, like, I don't know if they showed me a clip or they sent me a clip or whatever, but on the whatever it was, like Root Sports or whatever the game was on back in the day. They actually the camera like caught us like coming down, walking down to the section with the cup, like during the game. They're like, "Oh, the cup is here," and they're like, it was like me, you, and Ricky walking in with the cup. It was,
I,
yeah, it was
like
memorable.
I've had a couple of memorable trips down there. There was the time that I went all the way down and I couldn't find parking because it was the Rose City marathon or parade or something, and I missed the whole game and I listened to it on the radio as I drove around trying to find parking.
That's the. I don't think I've heard anything worse than that.
That that was probably my well, like we were on a holiday down the coast. I don't know if that's my worst away day experience or the time that I missed a bus going to see East Fife play Alloa. So I jumped in a taxi that cost me a lot of money, and then I got there and the game had been postponed because of the rain.
Did you bus back or what did you do?
I bussed back, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Very pissed off.
I
This was the
can
day
only-
before like internet and mobile phones and everything.
Right, yeah.
Oh yeah, the game got called off 2 hours ago. Great.
No, but that day was it was memorable. Yeah, and then having to be the people to be like, oh yeah, we'll give this away, and we're like having
My
lost.
my other two memories from the border were when they found the cup and they were like, "Is there anything you're bringing down that's going to be staying in the US?" Well, possibly the cup. Well, is it going to be staying? Well, we don't know. It depends how the game goes. They couldn't really compute as to how that was going. And then they searched the car, came back, and then the guy's like, "So I'll ask you one more time. Do you have more than $10,000 in cash in your
And
vehicle?"
I was like, no, this guy.
I know, and I'm thinking, because I hadn't long bought the car, and I'm like, okay, what have they found somewhere hidden that I do not know about? I think I just made a joke of, I wish.
Those are that's like one group of people that you don't want to joke with, though.
No, I learned that, yeah. Unless you go over the Aldergrove crossing, they're actually all really nice there, and you do have a good bit of banter.
Sumas has been in our time living out here. Sumas has been great. I don't think I've had one negative experience there.
Sumas was the one that I went through where they forgot about me and I was sitting there for an hour and a half, and the girl that was dealing with me had gone home. Her shift had finished.
Like because you're going, you're that
Yeah,
green.
that was after we'd been to see Whitecaps play PDL against the Abbotsford Mariners.
Oh yeah.
And I
Oh,
thought,
yeah.
I'll go down to the States from that border. Never again.
Was that the day we used the orange smoke at Bateman Park?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was more smoke than people.
Yeah, we were testing some orange smoke.
I think you were testing a few things that day, people's patience. Oh, those were great days. Halftime, you'd run on the pitch of a game of football.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's have a kick about. What was
Happy
that?
days, happy
That was
memories.
that was USL PDL.
Yes.
Yeah, the PDL side, yeah.
Ah, I
was
miss those days.
I was putting that in footballogy,
Oh,
footballogy recently.
I had to renew my app. I should probably get round to doing it. Might have a lot of time.
Speaking of which, Ian McHugh had surpassed me, so I had to go and
Oh,
put in some USL dates to make sure.
oh, can't have that. Let's get back to modern day, even though as much as I would like to talk about days of old, because it was a lot more fun. Wednesday's going to be tough. I genuinely don't see us getting anything from this. What I said to the guys on the radio, I had the pleasure of doing the pre-game and the post-game.
A double blessing.
Yeah.
For you and the listeners.
Well, I was only meant to be doing the pre-game, and then right at the end, Ace is like, "Oh, can you join us for the post-game?" And I was like, okay, I'm sure. I was like, nothing like putting you in the spot on live radio. And then at half-time, I texted him going, "Genuinely regret agreeing to do the post-game now."
You must have been a bundle of joy.
It was fun. I love chatting to the two of them, and we had a few good chats. And one of them, which I'll address with you now, what do you do going into this game? What is your starting 11 for the Whitecaps going into this game? What is your formation going into this game? And like genuinely, I feel we have to go 4 at the back, because if we go 3 at the back, I just see us getting murdered in this.
Uh, that's a very significant question, and I I don't like three at the back personally, just in general,
Me
in general
neither. But
terms.
I don't
So
mind it in a 3-5-2 when you're playing it right.
yeah, I agree with you. That would probably be the best situation, but like, but we know Vanny prefers it.
Hmm. And like we've had the discussion before, and like when Vanny did his pre-season media talk with us and showed us
Yes,
everything, he
yes,
loves to stress nobody else in the world plays like this. And you have to come back with, why do you think that is? Why do you think a Jurgen Klopp, a Pep Guardiola, maybe don't go with this formation? Is there a reason maybe no other club in the world plays this pure back three?
yeah,
Let's look at the goals against column.
yeah.
I'm being a
So
little facetious, but like
no, no,
genuinely, he's shown a little flexibility this year.
yes,
Whenever he does switch to a back four, he'll mention, "Oh, see, I switched to a back four." When he's talking in the post game, and it's like you that should just be an accepted thing that you do when things aren't going right.
yeah. So okay, if it's going to be a back four, then Michael. Well, okay, before we talk,
Well, I don't think it will be. And
I think
I'll
it
tell you
should
the
be.
team
Okay,
that I think he'll put out because I
okay.
think it will be three four
How
three.
you think this is 6-3-4-3?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think Taka in goal. I think it's
Mhm.
a back three or that we saw on Friday. So I think it'll be Utvik, Blackman, and Veselinovic. Personally, I'd put Laborda in for Utvik because Utvik has not looked good in some of these last goals that's been given up. My ideal midfield four is not the one that I think he'll go with. So my ideal midfield four would be, I think I'd have Sam probably on the left.
Yeah.
I'd have Berhalter and Kubis in the middle. And who did I have on the right?
Ali?
Oh, Ali on the right, yeah. And front three of
Two Scots and a white?
no, Gold, Fafa,
Oh, five. Okay.
and White
And then you leave Stewart as the
as the sub off the bench.
yeah, okay.
I that's what
If Stewart's fit, do you just put him in for Berhalter?
no.
Okay.
I I I also think Shopf might get the start
Yeah, I was thinking when you
at the
said
expense
Berhalter, I think
of Ali or Sam. And I've got to say, as well as Ali's done for Canada, he's not had a great year with the Whitecaps.
no, I concur. It seems like he when I yeah, yeah, you're right. His best moments this year, I think, have been with for Canada. I feel like I don't know that he raises his game or it's the people he has around him or what it is, but yeah, it just feels like he performs better when he's wearing the maple leaf on his
Mm-hmm.
chest.
Because what I think Vanny will do is I think he'll put Berhalter on the right and he'll have Shopf in the middle beside Kubis.
Yeah,
I am bearing in mind that Shopf got sent off when I went down to Portland for the game in June. And actually, talking about discipline, the Whitecaps were very lucky in that RSL game. It was a very feisty game. It was a really
yeah,
rough game. And there were some stupid bookings getting picked up that they didn't need to do. They were getting involved in stuff that they didn't need to get involved in. And Fafa was maybe a lucky lad that they didn't review that elbow that he swung.
yeah. I think it goes back to what you said before, or I think there's a conversation we had about what you said before in terms of players follow their leader, right? And when you have a coach, not in that match, in the last match, but when you have a coach who this might be a harsh word, but you have a coach who's let's say reckless with their emotions, which leads them to being, booked and in previous years suspended. And a lot of people would say those emotions in previous years were rightly expressed at very horrific incidents. But it's carried on to this year where
Mhm.
again, you're getting suspended for multiple like card accumulation and he's like isn't he like one of the leading yellow card accumulators in the
Yeah.
side
Like this was Michael's seventh game in charge this
this year?
season.
Yeah, which is
It's
that's
like
awkward.
a fifth of the season, you've got your assistant coach in charge.
Well,
And that
just
was also because a couple of games got knocked off.
yeah, yes, yes. So I think that's I think that's something that I'm sure like Axel Schuster's not happy about.
No, I'm sure that conversation has to be had if it hasn't already.
Yeah.
And
Because just think about you like, again, think about it as a job,
hmm,
right? Think about if you could only watch like your primary part of your job, like not the whole job, but the most significant part of your job, you could only watch your number two do it for what's that, 20% of the time or
hmm.
whatever. Right? Like that, like
That's an interesting way of looking at it. I mean, I don't know if I should cue up a he's an angry bastard and I like it. Haven't played that for a while. And I love the emotion that he brings. That's the thing. But I'm also aware that there's certain jobs where you just can't let it out. And I know it's hard.
yeah.
And
And this
I would be shit at it. I know I'd be getting suspended. I guarantee that.
yeah, oh well, anyone who knows you knows that. But
I am an angry bastard.
I think the Vanni Sartini is becoming more and more of a polarizing character amongst Whitecaps fans, right? Like I think the having done so many things that no one has, led the club to has made him very popular, and some of the results have made him very popular and loved. And then his personality, his approach to football, his approach to life for some people is very inspiring or meaningful or a connecting point. But yeah, I think for some people, some of those things have the inverse
Mhm.
response from people. And then there's his tactics, his approach.
Yeah. I mean,
In the
definitely
past, his
big
rigidity.
discussions to be had. And it's
Yeah.
like, I know I joked that next week will be our end of season. It very well might be. Hopefully it isn't. But these are all things that we're going to delve into. I'm looking at maybe doing a round table and having a few talking heads on this year to do it, Zach. We spoke to Ace about that, and he's up for that.
Oh,
And
sweet.
maybe get Felipe, Har, you, me,
Yeah.
be some good discussions. And there needs to be some tough, hard discussions made, but hopefully it won't be for a few weeks.
Yeah. If we do that one of those, you need to tell me. So one of those could be like when we play a game, like when we have lots of people, we got to play a game
Oh,
or two
yes.
or five
Yes,
or
like
whatever.
Saw. Who are we going to lock in our basement and not let out?
Wait, wait, did you just make a reference to the Saw movie?
Aha.
And you call
Do
that
I
a
play a game?
you call that a game? Oh, that's why. Okay, okay. Yeah, that's not I wouldn't call that a game, Michael, but
It's my way to deal with failure during the season. Another reason why I'm no longer coaching youth. Let's let's get into the last big talking point of this section, maybe, which is going to be a long talking point. I think this first section could be a 2-hour podcast on its own, to be honest. Oh, I
well, it
never
could be a
mentioned at the
3 hour. It could
top
be
as
a
well.
3 hour one.
Yeah, this is our fourth podcast in 8 days. That is going to probably be about 10 hours worth of podcast material.
As
How
it
much,
should be.
Michael, was too much, Michael? Let's just say Caitlin will be happy if I have to go down to Portland on my own this week. Yeah, let's get into the elephant in the room. Oh, do you want to see my elephant impression again? Always
No,
love doing
no,
this.
no.
There's the ears.
No, Michael, please. Please don't do
Ah,
that.
that's my party piece.
Oh my goodness. You don't
And
you don't get invited back to any parties, do
especially not children's parties.
you? Oh man.
The play-in game will be in Portland. It will not be at BC Place. You first heard it here on the AFTN Soccer Show a couple of weeks ago, episode 635. Seems so long ago. Three shows ago.
Is it that long ago?
Uh-huh.
Oh wow. When you
And
when you when you told me about it, I was just like, no, that's not gonna happen. And then as you explained it to me, I was like, okay, yeah, that could happen. But then I was like, no, things are gonna work out where they're gonna
yeah,
be in the top, or they're gonna, if they end up there, that they'll end up ninth anyway, so it won't be an issue, or it won't be look bad or whatever. When I think about the whole thing, Michael, I think a couple of things. First off, I want to say I think it was good of the comms department to put it out ahead of time, via email, sending it out saying, "Hey, this is what's going on. We want to make you aware of this now because this is the reality that we're facing."
yeah.
So it wasn't like
It
after
would
the
certainly be
game.
better than Saturday night or Sunday to break the
Yes,
news.
totally. So
That
I think
said, though, it's been horrific PR that may not have ever even come to pass. So, I mean, it was ballsy and risky to do it.
no, it showed honesty.
Yeah.
I think it showed openness, transparency. I think it's to me part of maybe like a hallmark of the Axel Schuster era,
Yep.
right? I think in
Yeah,
previous eras,
to
you're right.
own it.
To own it, yeah. Just to say, we need to tell you this now, just in case. You need to know this now, so you don't get not that you don't get mad later, but so that when this might become a reality, you know already. You don't find out after.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to say is this, and people have to remember that this is a part of the price of admission to MLS, right? There's no MLS in Vancouver without BC Place, right? You can talk about how different communities of people blocked Greg Kerfoot's attempt to build stadiums in other places. You can say, oh, well, between now and 2011, surely they could have come up with a plan, maybe, but ultimately playing at BC Place where you don't own the facility, where it has a significant calendar of events, of all kinds of events, which impact your pitch and impact your use of the stadium and all that kind of stuff. That was part of the deal going in, right? So I know a lot of people there's just anger and hate and frustration and disappointment and all that kind of stuff. But you have to remember, like, this is one of the variables that you knew going in. And I don't think when you think about it if you're able to step back and see it in that light, I think most Whitecaps fans would say it's not the ideal. And we know it's going to lead to moments like this, it can lead to moments like this. And would they rather, I think if you ask most people, Michael, would you rather have no MLS team or have the occasion like this happening? They would say, well, yeah, I want an MLS team. I think most people, right?
Yeah.
And so I as much as I think it's okay for people to grieve not having this game in whatever way is meaningful for them, I think it's also healthy to remember that this is part of the cost to play in this league.
I mean, they missed a chance as well to add in that they can't host the MLS Cup the first weekend of December because of Taylor Swift.
Oh yeah,
Just throw that out as well.
Yeah, I think putting that in there would have made that didn't make as much logical sense.
No, I was just being funny with that.
No, but that is a good
yeah.
joke.
I mean, when we got the tip off about it, because of where it came from, I was 100% convinced that it was genuine and accurate. And when we mentioned it, we joked, "Oh, don't get too angry about it." And it went under the radar. Folk must have been like, it's not going to happen. Because the Whitecaps genuinely did not, like, they knew this was a possibility.
Yeah.
But they genuinely didn't see 4 weeks ago that this was going to be a possibility because of where they were sitting.
Exactly.
And then as the season's gone on, it's just been like, oh shit, this now could really come into play. But there was discussions had right up to the last minute. So if you've been missing under the rock, the long story short, BC Place is booked next weekend for the World Supercross Championship. It's a booking that has been made for 18 months. So 18 months ago, this booking was made. So for everyone that was saying, well, why did the Whitecaps not block out the dates? Well, the time that the dates were known for sure for this season, it was already booked. They couldn't do it. They have booked next year's date, so this will not happen next year. That was said by Sarita on the pre-game show. That is little consolation, to be honest. And if it had been a team that wasn't a Cascadian rival, I don't think it would have really hurt so bad. But you're also going to a team that their home form, I think it's the third best in the West, and that's including a couple of speed bumps in the last couple of games.
Yeah.
So it's not an easy place to go. You are playing a Portland team, though, that's like also, as I mentioned, 5 games without a win, but they can carve out draws, which at least a draw puts in a penalty shootout, and we've got a good record in that.
With or without extra time?
With extra time. It'd be a very long night down in Portland. The discussions were being had because, and we talked about this on the last week's show as well. Tuesday was in play.
Mm-hmm.
There was a possibility that the Whitecaps could have hosted a BC Place on Tuesday. Now, let's pull into speculation station. Whoop, whoop. The Eastern game is on Tuesday. The Western game is on Wednesday. Did Apple say we don't want both on the same day? We want the West on the Wednesday. So I'm sorry, you can't have this on the Tuesday. And although we're now speculating, that would not surprise me in the slightest. It certainly sniffs with this, because Har got in touch with Pavco and BC Place, and their statement said one of the potential dates was not available. Not both, just one.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take a lot of reading between the lines that someone somewhere along the line vetoed that being on the Tuesday.
Which, I mean, we know that Apple has a significant say and control in all these things.
Yeah.
Just look what happened last year. Was like every game was 7:30. It had to be. So it wouldn't be shocking if that was the definitive thing that meant that the one day that the stadium could host the game was not made available by the broadcaster, and probably not that's probably a more common situation than we know in sports in general in North America.
Well, yeah, and because folk were like, I don't understand this. It's not till Saturday, and it's like, yeah, this takes a lot of setting up. You bring a lot of dirt in. You've got mounds to build. You've got to make sure it's up to safety spec. So folk were like, well, we couldn't have played after it then either if we were hosting in the first round. They could have, because it's way quicker to dismantle it.
Get it out, yeah.
And they could have played the game maybe on the Sunday, but definitely on the Monday. And the first round games run into the Tuesday, because RSL's first game is on the Tuesday.
Monday Night Football at BC Place.
It would have been great. But it's not to be. Fan reaction has understandably been brutal. When the news came out and I tweeted a 4-post thread breaking down all the ins and outs of it, I had to silence my phone because Twitter was just going insane. Like in the first couple of hours, I had over 30,000 impressions and stuff. I was like, oh, this is nuts. And it was all anger. Understandable. I mean, I have a couple of big questions that I've not been able to get answers to. Just they had looked at all avenues and a switch was the only one. So here's two to put to you, Zach.
Mm-hmm.
Both really around the same thing of why could it not have been in a neutral venue? And the two that spring to mind is Lumen Field in Seattle. Make both travel.
Yeah. Forget that. Let's go to Tequila, man.
Yeah. But you're down in RSL. Stay the fucking Utah and play the game at RSL, which was your previous home. So you're a little bit familiar with it, and play the game there.
Yeah. There's a joke I want to make that I'm not going to make. No.
Hey, if you can have more than one wife in Utah, you can have more than one home team at your stadium.
There you go. That's not the joke I was going to make.
I thought that was it.
No. Yeah, I wonder if that was more the league saying, look, if you're not hosting it, then they get the right to host it, or if you cannot provide a stadium, then we're going to them next to see what, as opposed to neutral venue. Because you got to imagine there might be, now the league could have said, okay, the Whitecaps pay the cost, but yeah, there would be some kind of cost involved. You can't just roll to Lumen Field.
Oh no, you'd have to rent it, and also I genuinely don't know if it's available either. But exactly, I mean, same with RSLs. I mean, that might be why. I'm again just speculating.
Yeah, because like you said, they say they explored as many avenues as possible. So maybe they did look at this.
Well, like Sarita said in the pre-game that it had to get played in an MLS stadium, and I was like, really? I'm not 100% sure, because that wasn't what the initial release said and stuff that we've been told. Because folk were like, why not Starlight? Why not Willoughby? So if it had to be an MLS stadium, fair enough. Obviously, the venue there is small. Swangard as well. Swangard is used for the whole month for Pumpkins After Dark.
Oh yeah, you told me about that a long time ago. I forgot that. I mean,
which I'm going to on Halloween. It's a great event.
that's your anniversary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nice.
And Caitlin is my pumpkin.
I think the if it wasn't for the pumpkin gathering, I think Swangard would have been brilliant.
Yeah, could maybe have brought in extra bleachers or something. Although after this rain, I don't know what state that pitch would have been in.
Still, it would have been actually, yeah, it's supposed to keep. Oh,
Yeah.
no, no,
But
this week it's supposed to be dry on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I think.
yeah. So it would have drained. But
Yeah,
like the thing lesser with Starlight, but definitely with Willoughby is they just don't have the infrastructure there. It I was going to say it's a stadium not fit for purpose, but it is. It's a community stadium. It does the community stuff well. It handles CPL well with quirks and things that are not ideal. But the two big flaws of the stadium is
floodlights.
the floodlights are utter shit. And
Yeah,
I've just watched some Canada West games there this weekend that you really struggled to see the pitch in the broadcast.
yeah,
They that needs like again, it's like what is the priority for that stadium? For me, it's a roof, some
yeah.
kind of covering to get fans out. Then it has to be like floodlights. But the press box, as I kind of alluded to at the start, it genuinely is not fit for purpose. You can't get more than 5 people in it. It's open air, it's open sided, it's just two tents. And with the wind, when I was up there on Saturday, it looked like the roof of the tents were about to blow off. And the camera that had been set up, the wind and the rain was just blowing into it, and they had no covering on it. Now, obviously, Apple have a whole different broadcasting criteria,
The
and it
media
could
pro, yeah.
not in a million years be done from Willoughby. I don't think it could have been done from Starlight either.
What about Swangard? Would that have
Swan
been?
Guard, possibly.
I think Starlight it could have been done, Michael.
There's all the ferries and carting stuff over and ferries and everything,
Oh,
though.
sorry. You're talking Starlight. I'm still thinking Tequila.
Oh
That used to
yes,
be called
Starfire.
Starfire. Yeah, yeah. Starfire could have been. I like again.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have had the capacity they wanted, but I think
No, and I wonder if it is capacity, how much of that plays into it. I mean, it's easy to say, is this the push for the Whitecaps to try and get their own soccer-specific stadium? Now, Asa had a chat with Axel about it, and Axel shut him down right away. Said, no, we're happy at BC Place, that's our home stadium. There'd been rumours a couple of years ago that Hastings Racecourse was going to get knocked down and a stadium was going to go there. And I've had crickets over the last 2 years from those rumours since. They were so strong, and then just seems to have come to nothing.
and yeah, yeah.
And there's other rumours which we won't go
Yeah.
into just now that's floated about that may or may not have been around that as well. But I don't know where they could get land. That is really the only place, unless they work somewhere like Surrey, but they want to be downtown or a Vancouver team because they know that's where the bulk of their fan base is. That's what their market research has shown them. And they tried so hard. And I like when I was going through all the newspaper archives for the 1974 stuff, I also did some other things as well. And one of them was around the whole stadium debacle. So I've got all the press cuttings from like 2 or 3 years off all that.
Mhm.
So I should put something together on that. But basically, it's 50th anniversary season. It's been an absolute clusterfuck PR wise off the pitch. You've
It
had having to move the Tigres game at the start of the year. There's been the Messi incident. There's been LAFC cancelling the game because of the League's Cup, then playing the game in an international window that had to be on the Sunday because rugby was on the Saturday and you're missing 6 players to international duty. You had the poor crowd for the Canadian Championship final, then the epic drop off on the pitch as well. And although a lot of it has not been of the Whitecaps doing, it's not been a 50th anniversary season to remember so
and
far.
and yeah, well, aside from the Voyageurs Cup, but I would say the other thing I would add to that, Michael, and this is not my personal opinion, but I do think they really missed the opportunity to And I know Stuart Armstrong is, a certain quality above what they've brought in the past, but I really feel that they missed an opportunity to, I mean, not necessarily bring in a name that everyone will know that's played in the Premier League in England or whatever, but
You're Armstrong.
I said that everyone would know. Um, but I
But
do
yeah,
feel as a 15th anniversary, part of tying into the tradition and the history of the club when they used to bring in these guys, from England who were known, whether they were young like a Beardsley or they were old like Ball, like you could have spun it like that, like, hey, this is a special year, we're doing some special, whatever. Obviously it costs money and it's Kerfoot's
mhm.
money and whatever, 2% of Steve Nash's money, whatever. Like there are all these variables, but I feel like, and I'm not saying that's what I think they should have done, but I think it was like a missed
Well, I
opportunity.
think the fan base expected it. And like the disappointing thing for me is this was a pivotal season for them. They had so much goodwill going into it. You had
Hmm.
so much buzz going into it. It's like, this is a great team. They can really do well. Ryan Gould's building this. And like you say, if they added that third DP piece at the start of the year and a well-known name or a guy that's performed at the top level,
And but also someone who is at a
yeah,
good
not
age,
not
not.
here as a retiral person. Yeah,
Yes,
it's
yes.
like that would have added to the goodwill. You had the big crowds. You had all the tickets sold in the four packs that involved the Messi stuff. You had a chance to win over a brand new fan base.
I mean, you had a chance, in my opinion, Michael. If they had done something like that, you had a chance where it wasn't just 4 games. There's going to be the 30,000 plus and upper bowl. You could have had a whole season like that, really,
Yep,
if you had brought in the right type of player. Now,
right
obviously,
player and right results on the pitch, and playing
right, which
the
which
football that folk go and watch and go, oh, I want to come back to the next game.
oh yeah, which at the beginning of the year the results were more positive, right?
Well,
I'm not.
they had a six, like from the end of April to the end of May, there was a 6 game winless streak.
Right,
They
but
they
before that,
start they started strong under Michael D'Agostino. Then
yeah.
Vanni came in and they had their 6 game winless streak.
Oh, someone's creating a narrative. Uh, um, but yeah, I know. Yeah, I genuinely think that they could have done that.
Mhm.
I was listening to Vanny talk recently and talk about how he believes the club is a part of the fabric of the community, of the city, of the Lower Mainland or whatever. And in one sense, yeah, absolutely they are. But this was an opportunity where I think as a celebratory thing, as a pushing yourself even further forward, they could have made it that much better. And again, I say that knowing that I'm talking about other people spending their own money to make that happen,
I
not
know,
owners.
but I mean that's what we're here to do. It was pivotal. They could have dramatically increased their fan base, and what my worry is they're actually going to have decreased it with the way that this season's gone, and they're going to have lost some more of the regulars, the people that had come back, because there's just so much anger out there, and they need a playoff run to start to turn this around. You're in the middle of a season ticket renewal drive as well. I like the tagline, the next wave, because you're moving into past the 50th year. So I mean, all of that's good, but this has been a regular season that gives the detractors, the casuals, and even the loyal fans a lot to beat the club up with. And it's how they manage this and how they hit the ground running next year. And there's been so many people that's just like, oh, I expect this now. It's the same old Whitecaps,
Yeah.
joke of a club, Mickey Mouse League, etc., etc. And when you look at what it was like coming into the season, it was just so different. So much hope, so much expectation.
Yeah. And I think just to reiterate your point, um, a number of these things that did not go well and or did not go their way were out of their hands.
Oh yeah, like from the very start, being like, oh, you just happen to be seeded one spot that has you in the first half of the CONCACAF Champions Cup draw that you then can't play at home. So everything from that, the messy thing. I mean, we'll get into that when we do our season ending thing about ticket pricing and stuff and how they marketed it. But ultimately, it wasn't. They can't decide if he plays or not. The League's Cup. Who knew that? Well, yeah, an inkling that LAFC may get into the semi-finals, but again, out of the Whitecaps' hands, not being able to play the rearranged game because they needed the weekend and not a midweek. All of this stuff they can't help, but that doesn't matter when you're a downtrodden fan that's just at the end of your tether with them.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much it for the Whitecaps chat. I want to say big well done to CF Montreal as well.
Yeah.
I watched their game because I wasn't doing
That was on
commentary
TSN.
on Saturday. Yeah, I got to watch the Montreal game. I got to watch the CPL outcome that we're going to talk about shortly. So, I mean, I got to get to Black Pudding Imports.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah,
I had a great day. But yeah, Montreal did well to get in.
Yeah, Martinez is really kind of shown his quality and his worth in the kind of second half of the season or whatever, where he's been getting the goals. And that second goal was just like a pretty class finish.
Yeah, they're playing well. They've got Atlanta on Tuesday. That should be a good one.
They had also, I don't know if you noticed, they put because of shortages or injuries or whatever it was, Waterman was playing center mid. Joel Waterman.
I didn't. I had him with the sound down. I knew he was on the pitch. I didn't know he was playing centre mid.
I was really happy to see him in the.
Well, he was a
national team
DMCM before transitioning to centre back.
Yeah, well,
at Trinity Western with TSS, at Calgary Foothills.
He got to show some of that.
Nice. Yeah, good luck to Montreal on Tuesday. Good luck to the Whitecaps on Wednesday. I'm going down to the game. Fingers crossed it is not the last game of the season. I know I've been quite down on them. It's hard not to feel kind of doom and gloom with how the season's ended. I'll finish on a positive. Although I'm not confident about going into this playing game, I think if they can get the win in that, the spark that will give them makes me a lot more confident for the round one game. So I feel they've got a better chance in the round one game than this one. But if they can get through this one, I think a little bit of the mojo's come back for them. That's
LAFC away, right? In the first one?
Yeah.
And it's best of 3.
Best of 3.
Yeah.
And it would be next Sunday.
Sunday, yeah.
And then the Sunday after that. And then the third game would be the Friday. Feast of football to take in, always is. And we finished talking Whitecaps. We are going to turn our attention now to the CPL. I feel this could be another long part coming up, but we'll be back with that after this episode song from our album of the month.
Hi, I'm Ryan Gold, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
So ugly, remote control makes my heart bleed. Religion and beauty queens, come on down, the refugees. 'Cause money grows on game show dreams, and the soaps never get too dirty. I wanna be a lounge dummy. There's a channel that's always sunny. I just wanna be a lounge dummy. Going out makes me uptight. I think I'll stay
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's our latest song from our album of the month here in October at AFTN, English Britpop band Kinky Machine, their second album released in 1994. The album is called Bent, and that song is Lounge Dummy. And the lyrics: I want to be a lounge dummy, watch the world from my TV. And that's the great thing about modern day football, Zach. You can watch football from any corner of the globe, because the world is flat. Any corner of the globe. And it's so different to what it was like 20 years ago. And when I was first moving over here, and folk used to tell me the horror stories of trying to watch football in the 80s and 90s here. And there was a show that influenced me, and I'm sure a lot of folk my age, football fans and podcasters and people that cover the game in the UK. It was on Sky Sports, and it ran for about 20 years. It was called Soccer AM. It was on a Saturday morning. It was everyone's routine on a Saturday. You would just tune in and watch it for 3 hours. It was fun. They had footballers on, they had bands on, they had funny segments, and it really kind of shaped kind of football TV coverage when like football was the new rock and roll and all that kind of stuff. And Oasis were on it regularly as guests talking about Man City, and they had really big name guests on it all the time. So gradually it died a slow death. It got less and less funny. The hosts that everyone loved and the cast and crew that were on it all moved on as well. But they're back with a new podcast called Soccer A to Z, and I've been listening to it. And the reason I'm talking about that is that the main host, a guy called Tim Lovejoy, who's a Chelsea fan, he'd go to all the Chelsea games, home and away. He said something on it that just blew my mind, that he hardly goes now. He's happy just to watch all the games at home on TV. And although I watch tons of games on TV, I can't imagine not going to live football. And just for that to be such a big part of your life and to cut it out. And a friend of mine, actually my best friend in Scotland, Stevie, who worked in the fanzine with me and went to East Fife home and away, would do all the pre-seasons together. He just thought one day, I've had enough of football, and just doesn't go and doesn't even watch it on TV anymore. He just cut it out of his life completely. I just can't imagine that.
That's weird. I can't imagine that either. Like, obviously, there's different seasons of life where whatever, maybe where you stand or...
Yeah, you maybe can't get along as much.
Yeah. But not going at all, no. And also, it's one of the things I love about it is, you know, going to football in different sort of settings, right? So, like for you, I know it's like you got your VMSL, you have your college, you got your League One BC, you got your you got your CPL, you got your MLS, you got your national teams, you got like, yeah, for you, there's all these, and for me, it's not.
Yeah, and if you're listening, Colin Miller, see, I do get out of the house.
That's right.
I happened to mention I was watching the Auckland FC A-League game because we're talking about stadiums.
Yeah.
And Colin's like, Michael, do you never go out? But I do. But no, yeah, I'm sorry, what were you going to say for you?
No, just like, yeah, I'm the same. It's like, you know, like it's so great to be at. Like it's so different. Like there's like when you go to watch your local club or you go to watch the national team or you travel for a game. Oh, it's like the best is when you travel.
Away days.
Yeah, it's the best.
And that is one benefit, at least, I guess, Whitecaps going down to Portland, fans are going to get an away day, as not ideal as that is on a midweek and trying to take days off work. But
you only need to take one day. Come on. You drive down, you go to the game, you get in the car, you drive home.
Hey, we're not all going to Calgary 8 times in a season.
I will say that is the one thing that I'm happy about what we're about to talk about. Is there still a chance that the finale for the CPL could be in Calgary?
Which I now can't go to, but yes.
I really, if it's there, I want to go.
Yeah. I mean, like we talked about all the things that I go to. So, like for me, VMSL, that's my fun. I go out on a Friday night, I just unwind, do some videos, but like taking some good, proper grassroots football. College, League One BC, that's fun and it's work. Vancouver FC, Vancouver Whitecaps, their games of football. That's how I'm feeling just now about both of them. Because I mean, in the last part, we talked about a team that couldn't get a win in the last 7 games of the regular season.
Are we having some deja vu here?
Yeah, fizzled out.
Yeah,
At least got to
we're
the
really
point.
high up the table. We're
Oh
really
yeah,
high up the
started
table.
off so well.
Yeah, like second in the table.
Slow decline before a rapid failure at the end. I would just replay the talk from part 1, I think, and I'll just splice in Vancouver FC.
Yeah, yeah. There's some uncanny
Oh, I mean,
similarities.
so many similarities because we're going to talk CPL in this part. The outcome, which I got to take in, and it was
Yeah.
fantastic.
So I got to take it in a little bit differently than you. I had a commitment, something that Kirk and I were a part of, but I was able to have my iPad there, so I had no sound. But I thought it was, so I wasn't watching like skipping YouTube feed to YouTube feed or whatever, but I just watched what was on Fubo TV on One Soccer, and it was a little bit like Goal Arena,
Yeah,
in
I like how they
Germany.
cut into it. I mean, I guess they picked Ottawa, Vancouver because both teams had something to play for.
Yeah, and it impacted the top and the
Yeah,
bottom.
but to
Same,
me,
same with Calgary.
the game was Pacific Forge for me because for me, I only cared about fifth. But yeah,
Yeah. No, I saw, and it was, yeah, it was the best end of the season I think the league's ever had.
yes. Well,
Like the most
like going into
exciting.
the last 10 minutes of the season,
Yeah,
it was all still up for
all to
grabs.
play for. Yeah,
And I mean that's the best compliment you can give for how the league did this and how it played out in the season. Last season, I thought was the best season of the CPL. I think it probably overall was a better season than this season, just maybe. But the ending of this season was by far and away, as you say, like tremendous. I liked that all the games were available on YouTube, so new people to the league could take it in. And because it ended up going to Blackpool Imports, and I met up with Greg Petrie as well in Langley for a little bit. So cheers to Greg for getting me my t-shirt.
he crossed the river for you.
Well, it was all pretty much a river by the time we got out to Langley, to be fair. But yeah, then I went to Black Pudding, then I went to Lougheed Mall because I wanted to get some bread from Cobb's, and then I had lunch there. So I listened to the first 20 minutes of the Pacific game, and I just streamed it from the car and was listening to that driving home. But then once I got home, I had my little setup on the TV. I had Pacific Forge. On the laptop, I had Ottawa, Vancouver. And on my phone, I had Valor Cavalry on and off. I didn't have it on the whole time. And I was prepared to like switch about depending on how things played out. But it was great. Three of the 4 games had everything on the line. And as I said, going into the last 10 minutes, they still did.
Yeah.
And we'll not obviously delve into all the games, but we'll go through the main talking about points and stuff, I guess, coming out of it as well. So Pacific claimed 5th in the end. They set up the play-in game against York on Wednesday night out in Ontario, 4:30 p.m. kickoff. So hopefully I can get to watch that down in Portland before heading off to the Whitecaps game. It was a 1-0 win in the end, and it was nervy times because if Forge had tied things up, things could have just swung in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
The way that things were going.
Like you said, it was all on a knife's edge, the whole day. Yeah.
And I think like Pacific were the better team, and they were dominant in stretches. But again,
they were the only full first team, right?
Yes, Forge definitely did not bring a full first team. But we talked about how strong a second string Forge is. But yeah, they simply weren't good enough on the day. Pacific had chances to put it to bed as well, but
they did. I just say this: I would really like to be in a press conference or hear if the same thing was in inverse to Bobby Smirniotis. I would just like to hear what he would say.
He,
And if he did say anything disparaging, I would be like,
he would be understanding.
I don't know. I don't know that he would be.
I don't know that he would be, but I mean, this was all to me. This was always going to be what Bobby did.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying I blame him.
Yeah,
I'm just.
and it's just the nature of the league, and it's like you've clinched first. You've got guys. I mean, guys were suspended as well, and some guys were injured.
Yeah.
But it was a very young team he brought. Pacific put out a full strength team, and they had chances. They got the only goal of the game, 32nd minute. Friend of the show, Dario Zanata. If you didn't listen to our interview with him on the last episode, because I pushed it out, it was late. It came out on Friday as our CPL build-up. 2 fantastic interviews in that. Mine's with Dario, Zach's with Mickey Kintav. Even if you're not a CPL fan, it's like they're, from a football point of view, I don't mind blowing our own trumpet here, which I don't do often enough. Our interviews are our strength. It's like, to me, that is the best thing that we do on this show. And they're both absolutely fantastic, in-depth interviews, taking you through both guys' careers. Dario over in Scotland for 9 seasons. Mickey going over to France at a young age, coming back to Canada, friends with Fafa, talking about that as well, and the Whitecaps connection.
Friends, teammates, or teammates for the national team, roommates for the national team. Yeah.
I mean, it was a very, like, some of the stuff that Mickey comes out with, it's fascinating, talking about his mum coming over for a year, his dad coming over for a year. I know I'm spoiling the interview a little bit, but I genuinely enjoyed it. Dario just talking about really the ups and downs of life in Scotland, where there's a couple of teams that don't like him, that he played for.
And for those who are Whitecaps fans, you're like, why would I listen to those interviews? It's like Dario Zanata is a product of the Whitecaps Academy, and that's an interesting story in and of itself that maybe time we could maybe dig deeper into.
He said in the interview, just to tease it, like, he kind of set a trend. He was the first Whitecaps guy that was like, there's life outside of the Whitecaps.
Yeah, and I'm going to Europe on my own.
Yeah, could have gone to an MLS homegrown deal, but gambled on himself and carved out a career. And you might say, oh, it's just lower league in Scotland. It's a pro career. You've lived a pro life. You're probably making more money than playing in the CPL if it had existed.
Yeah.
And on probably the lower end of the homegrown scale as well.
So there's that. And then, Mickey, part of the Mickey piece, Mickey Kintav, is, this connection to Fafa and the intrigue of being with a fellow Haitian international in the same community, playing on different teams in different leagues, and then what does it look like to connect? And it was kind of the counterpoint to your interview with Fafa, which we kind of set it up to be that way.
I mean, genuinely, I know I jokingly say this. Those were 2 of the best interviews we've done this year, and one of the other ones is Fafa.
Yes,
it's like they're all right up there. And at the start of the season, the ones that I did with Fafa and Damir, it's like, to me, those are the 5 standout interviews that we've done this year. So definitely check out the last episode. If you saw it was CPL heavy and you thought, no, it's not for me, definitely check it out.
But his finish was nice. The ball from Adonijah Reed was
the confidence, though, and that's what Dario talks about in the interview.
Totally.
Strikers, it's all confidence. And you saw the relief on his face when he got that first goal from the spot, and he's been on fire. So in the running in the last 6 weeks, 5 goals, 2 assists, and he helped get the huge win over Vancouver FC. Sorry to Zach for bringing that up, but then he gets the goal that clinches their playoff spot. So he has been huge for them.
Does it remind you a little bit of Kakuta Mane last year, where he was not really present for most of the year, and then pops up at the end in the playoffs and starts. That
thought actually crossed my head a few weeks ago.
Yeah, it's not identical. It's not a mirror image, but it's reminiscent for me.
And we joked at the start of the interview as well with Dario. I said, I've been wanting to speak to you all year, but I thought I'd wait for your first goal. And I'm just glad we got it done in 2024. So he took it well. So Dario may go way back, and absolutely delighted for him. I said in last week's show, I wanted one of the 2 BC teams to get it. And I do sway a little bit more towards Pacific. It's just because they were the first team and I went over to games there. And we'll get more into the Vancouver stuff when they do the end of season things. But there's things
Yeah.
that's happened at VFC this year that I haven't liked or enjoyed. And it's kind of, again, swayed me more towards the purple side.
Well, and your favorite redeemed player on Pacific got on the pitch.
Yes, I don't mind Josh now. And I have a Pacific hat. Just to mention that one once. I'm very easily bought.
You're hilarious, man.
It was horrible conditions in Langford, and
Yeah.
not unexpectedly. It's like when James came in for the post-game interview, he had to take his jacket and stuff off. He said, "I'm just soaked. I can't sit down." And the
Was
chair,
it in the same tent?
yeah,
Yeah.
and the chair that Dario had been sitting in was soaked. He looked
Soaking
at it. He
wet.
went, "That's soaking."
Yeah.
But I mean, it was a great resurgence from Pacific, and it was in their hands. It was out of their hands, and in the end, they claimed about 4 points. But going into those last 10 minutes, I really can't stress enough. It was so in the
Yeah,
knife edge, and
nerve-wracking.
for everyone involved, it must just have been like edge of the seat stuff. If you're a fan watching it, if you're in the stadium, the players, and I would want to know what's going on. I'd want to be getting kept up to date if I was a player and
Oh,
a
yeah.
coach. And we'll hear a little bit of audio now from victorious head coach James Merriman, and he was indeed a very merry man.
I think it's the elements of the game, the rain, the surface, the pressure of the moment. Don't, you could see it in the way that we played a little bit. But big character, great for Dario to get that goal. Something that we spoke about a lot, the switch of play to Adonijah in the wide space, and a great goal to take. We made changes and we were able to see the game out. So really, really important win is the most important thing for us today. And to qualify for playoffs is something that we've been able to do, I think, five seasons in a row now. And it's very, very important for our club, for our organization, and for this group of players that have a tough season.
You guys come in your attack, getting goals, your defense is solid. How excited are you to start the playoffs?
I mean, I think it's the first game in a long time where we've had that 18 and the full squad available. I know Cedric Toussaint is difficult with the injury, but all season long we've been battling with injuries. We've been without our captain for I don't know what it is, 6 to 8 weeks. You could see yesterday in training, he was the one leading training. He was one pushing in training. His intensity that he's bringing, he's making sure everybody understands the moment. And I think we're in a good place going into the postseason for the first time all season. Where we have some consistency in who's available, and I think we felt that we knew we had options today, players that could come in and impact the game, and we haven't had that. It's been really difficult in that way. For whatever reason. And we feel good. We feel good moving forward and going on the road. Our last month has been like this, the last 4 to 6 weeks we saw the league pull away. We saw the teams pull away from us, and we weren't getting in the performances. We weren't putting in the results that we needed. And it was a challenging period for all of us, for the locker room. And we came together. We showed a bit of grit. We showed some, character in the adversity, and we got it done in the end. So now it's a blank slate. We go into the postseason. Last year we finished higher, but we played here, and then we had to travel to Halifax. So we know now we go to York. I think we played York very well all year long. We feel good going to York. And if we can win that game in advance, then we can stay on the East Coast. So I think it works out maybe better for us this season than last season in some way in terms of postseason and travel. And now we just need to come in, recover tomorrow, and switch our focus to that. We put ourselves, that the way that we've had a challenging season. It's the mid-season, we went through many games without results, not performances that we're happy with, that the players are happy with, or us as a staff. So it is what it is. We've done the minimum requirement, the minimum standard as our organization is to get to the playoffs every season. We want to be a playoff team, and we've done that. So now we need to go and show that we deserve to be there and that we can do something in the postseason.
James Merriman there, cock a hoop, but grounded, because this is just part one of a very long road ahead. If Pacific are going to get into the championship game, they're going to have to do it the hard way. They're going to have to do it on the road, and they're going to have to get through 3 different opponents as well. But it kicks off 4 different opponents.
They have to win 4 games, man.
Oh, yeah, but they have to get through 3 to get to the final.
Oh, to get to the final. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah. I should have worded that a bit better.
No. You're right. You're right.
But yeah, 4 to win it, which would really be something absolutely amazing if that would be a run for the ages. But it kicks off on Wednesday. York United, they've just been there and come away with a win, which is going to give them lots of confidence. And like James spoke about there, that does help the team and the run that they're in. They're full of confidence just now. They feel they can get it done. They also felt last year it was tricky for them in the playoffs because they played the play-in game in Langford and then had to fly to Halifax.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this year, they'll stay out east. So that is at least something going for them. But I wish them all the very best. It's going to be tough, but they are one of the form teams from the Final 5. It has to be said.
Yeah. If Vancouver FC had advanced, they would have just stayed out on the East Coast too. They would have went from Ottawa right to York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which it's disappointing that there isn't any playoff games here in BC. It'd be nice to get out to them. But sadly, from an Eagles perspective, Pacific's win saw them finish in 5th on 34 points. And it meant that no matter what Vancouver did in the capital against Atletico Ottawa, they couldn't finish better than 6th. As things played out, Halifax came from behind to beat York 2-1. Vancouver drew 0-0 in Ottawa. And the Wanderers ended up claiming 6th on the tiebreakers. Vancouver finishing 7th. Both teams finished on 30 points. And Pacific then were home, but we can't really say dry because of the conditions, but they were home and dry by 4 points in the end. Cavalry got a late winner from the spot in Winnipeg, coming from behind to beat Valor 2-1. Valor had taken the lead and were really putting the pressure on to claim that 5th spot at one point. Yeah. And that saw them seal 2nd. We'll talk about that shortly. And I also saw Phil DeSantis get sent off. I think just the season that they'd had just boiled over for him. And yeah, he just lost it.
Did that also saw the Toby won the Golden Boot?
Yes. We'll come to that in a sec.
Sorry, yeah. Because that also ties into the ending of the Vancouver FC.
Yeah. So, yeah, Phil got sent off. Valor finished 8th on 28 points, 2 adrift of Vancouver and Halifax, and in the end, 6th shy of the playoffs. So a lot to unpack, and we'll start things off with Vancouver. This sounds like deja vu again. A couple of weeks ago, this was in their own hands. But although the season hasn't been quite as dramatic a drop-off as the Whitecaps, it's been a steady one. And it's been a sadly consistent downhill slope, really. They started quarter 1 with 13 points from their 7 games.
You and your quarters.
Yeah.
No, this is good. This is good. Yeah.
I thought just before I went on the call, I was like, oh, there's going to be a lot of folk on this is on the pre-game call. What will I talk about? It's like, let's just have a look at it. Feels like it's been a bad end to the year, but I don't quite know how bad. And then I looked at it and I was like, oh boy. So 13 points in quarter 1, 6 points in quarter 2, 7 in quarter 3, and now just 4 from quarter 4, where they've taken 4 draws from the last 7 games, which is when it really mattered. And much like the Whitecaps are not in playoff form, Vancouver FC weren't either. They were like limping if they'd got into the playoffs. But it seemed to turn that Vancouver Pacific Derby a couple of weeks ago. We knew it was going to be massive. And ultimately, that has been probably the big swing.
Yeah, it was definitely a significant moment. I think the thing that stands out to me, you talk about kind of limping into the end of the season. It was like action following the Pacific game and I think one or two other kind of demoralizing multi-goal defeats. Really focused in on making the side more solid defensively.
Mm-hmm.
And it was weird because I feel like the last 4 games basically played out the exact same way. They came out very strong defensively, right? Because I think the games before that, they were giving up like early goals, they were giving up easy set play goals and all that kind of stuff. And they really buckled down as a team. And then so the plan was go hard for 45 or 60 or 75 minutes. And then Afshin will make changes to bring in some of the more creative, more attacking players, some of the more younger players, maybe more speedy players, or players with just even a different look in the attack. And that should be enough to win the games. And the crazy thing is it had the exact same result in all 4 of the games. They were all they ended the year with 4 draws.
Yeah. And
the goal scoring was not what it needed to be. I think there was two goals for. Is it 2 or 3?
Yeah, it dried up, and
there's 2 goals in those last 4 games.
They plugged the hole at the back.
Yes,
and then couldn't do anything up front where it was free flowing football before.
So because I asked him in the pregame of the that you were on the call, you were on there. I basically said, so like, are you looking at this, what you've done in these other 3 games? Are you looking at doing that? He said, I might do that, or we might have a different approach.
Yeah.
But it was very similar.
I know, because I thought, is he hinting they're just going to go really aggressive from the start?
Yeah, but he did. Then
which would have been risky.
Yeah, he did say it's Atletico Ottawa, and that might be unwise. Also, I think. He also
again, like what I said with D'Agostino, you're kind of playing the odds a little bit. Like, let's just be cagey in the first half and see the lie of the land.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, by half time, the lie of the land was Pacific right now mean that Vancouver needed a lot of help.
Yeah, but but I think his approach was we can't do anything about that. His approach was we just need to win this game.
Yeah.
Right.
And then see with the cards.
And if we win this game and we're out because of something else, that's there's other. Ultimately, though, I think if you were to choose a single moment where things were incredibly awful there's more you could choose, but the one that stands out, and speaking off the record to some Vancouver FC people about it, it was interesting to hear their descriptions of how it made them feel and how it made them want to respond. But it is that Austin Ricci moment away to Halifax with winning 1-0 in Halifax.
I'd actually had genuinely forgotten that was a pivotal moment.
Yeah, and then the end of the season run, you'll notice that he was suspended for the next game and then not included in the squad for the game after.
I mean, I said to you, and I was not like just saying it for laughs or whatever. He would not play for me again after that.
Yeah, and he did not.
So far, I mean.
Yeah, well. Oh, I don't think he is. I don't think he is a guaranteed contract for next year. No. And yeah. Anyways, that's a story for another time. But
yeah.
But no, it was really, now to me also this game against Atletico Ottawa. You may remember, I believe from that call, Afshin also just had explained to those in the call that the team had really suffered. That Halifax trip was really hard on them, not just points wise. Not just the travel, not just the emotions, not just the psychological stuff. Yeah, a number of people got like a flu.
Well, interestingly, our photographer Tom, the fantastic residual image, had been to Halifax and came down with the flu. And he came back with it as well. So it's
he went to a game. He went to a game there. Maybe he
did go to a game there. Actually,
maybe it's something at Wanderers.
Maybe.
Anyways, so he said on the pregame, this has gone through the team. So the number one thing when the lineups came out, Michael, an hour before kickoff, um, the first thing I did was looking over the roster, starting look at the bench, and you can imagine my shock when I discovered that there was no Grady McDonald in the side.
Yeah.
And then later I was told that he was not included because he's been ill. And right away my like heart sunk and I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be more difficult then. Because he's such a for lack of a better term, he's a game changer at this point in his life in this league. Whenever he comes on, he makes stuff happen. Or whenever the couple times he started, he makes stuff happen. And I think that was a huge loss for AFTN and for the whole side, not to be able to have his qualities and his abilities and his like tenacity in the side, whether from the start or even as a substitute.
I mean, we'll delve into a lot of what went wrong for Vancouver FC when we do our end of season chat with them, and we'll have some end of season audio and stuff. But I meant to ask you this last week, and I'll just ask you now. Now, I might have completely missed the reason why, because I've maybe not been switched on once the college season started. What the hell happened to Jose Navarro? He just seemed to disappear off the face of the earth.
Yeah, so he's a young, like 19-year-old Mexican loanee. I don't know in this last little stint, but I know he didn't really settle super well, and so didn't play too much.
Which is the second Mexican guy that's been at the club now that's had that issue.
Yeah, I mean, Weiro's been fine.
Yeah, he's basically Canadian now.
Yeah, but I know he got an opportunity one game near, like in the second half, like in these last whatever handful or 8 matches or whatever. But yeah, I don't know if it's like not like non-football related stuff or just he hasn't been impressing in training. I mean, there's a number of players who haven't.
Oh yeah, I mean that's something we'll definitely talk about. It's something I want to speak to AFTN and or Rob about at the end of the season. And it was one of the things I alluded to as well. There was lots of players that came in that we were very excited about. We had all our interviews at the start of the year, guys that we know, BC boys returning home. And for so many of them, for various reasons, it just hasn't worked out. But we'll get into all of that. This drop-off, like the Whitecaps have limped to the end with 2 points out of a possible 21. Vancouver FC, 4 points out of a possible 21 in their last quarter. You're never going to be playoff material with that. But the thing with the CPL is they got off to such a good start, and that's what's helped the Whitecaps in the end was the points on the board early. But it's I know I'm harping on about quarter by quarter, but
no,
it's like
it's a valid
13
thing.
from your first 7, and then 17 from your last 21. You've got to ask serious questions. And I know it's a young squad, and I know there's been injuries, and especially defensively, it's been like a rotating kind of thing back there, and there's been some mistakes. I think you can maybe question tactics, team selection. There's so many things that I don't even think it's easy just to put your finger on exactly why. It's hard to explain away, and I genuinely think it's going to be hard for them to put a positive spin on it.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong there, and this is maybe more stuff we'll talk about in the weeks ahead. But yeah, it's one. If I'm not remembering this incorrectly, it's one more point than the previous year, one less win, the same placement in the table, which was another really disappointing thing about the Halifax victory.
Yeah, but it feels like better performances.
Totally. That's
like
the one
thing. You go and win at Forge.
Yeah, and then draw at Forge.
Yeah.
Right?
So
that was one of Ashton's things in the end of the year that you might have caught, is he was just like, yeah, if we get in the playoffs, he's like, we can win anywhere, including at Forge. He sort of said, I think we're the only team who can go and take out Forge on their home park in the playoffs. Which is maybe
he is prone to bold statements, because he did say a couple of weeks ago, we're definitely making the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I said to you, I know you, because you said, well, what's he going to say? And it's like, but you're
Yeah,
just giving your detractors rope.
to hang you
Say,
with, yeah.
you said that.
Yeah. Yeah,
you
and that is
tell him.
that is a legitimate thing that he will probably be have to account for, obviously, with the ownership and within the club. But I mean, he got that wrong. He did say it would come down to the last game, and he
Oh
got that.
yeah. I
He
mean,
got that right.
he's been very adamant about that for weeks. And like, listen to him in the pregame. It's like you buy into what he says. I mean, he talked about what he achieved in Persepolis with a 96th minute winner
Yeah.
that won the championship. That was going through my mind as we went into the last few minutes of all these games, because you're like, oh, is this going to happen? Is this going to be a dramatic stoppage time like turnaround? And it could have been. Forge get an equaliser, Vancouver get the winner.
There was chances or half chances.
There was. I think that's what's frustrating.
Yeah. We kind of mentioned it before, though. The Ottawa, well, I mean, Cavalry did what they needed to do to make sure they got second, because I think even if Ottawa had won, I think Cavs would still be second.
Oh yeah.
But they were really angry because the ref blew the whistle with Del Campo.
Yes, it was a breakaway.
Del Campo was essentially breaking away, and I think he loses the golden boot by, is it 1 goal?
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
No, because I was like, why are you getting so excited? Don't get sent off and miss a playoff game
for
a goal that wasn't going to have mattered.
Yeah, no, yeah.
But oh man,
yeah, it's as we've said for 6 years running, this is a growing league, and the referees are also growing.
Yeah.
I
mean, by the letter of the law, the time was up.
Yeah, so in one sense you could say it's fine. In another sense, it might be better for the game, and it's still within the laws of the game for you to allow go for time wasted.
Also, it's Ottawa. I'd rather have Calgary, and you'd rather have a German. So there we go.
No, I'm okay with that part of it. We're just talking about it from the perspective.
Well, I mean, so like
right.
Toby Warshevsky got the golden boot with 12 goals after a late burst of goals.
Yeah,
and
we had a bunch at the beginning, didn't he?
Yeah. A bunch at the beginning, bunch at the end. If Dario was keeping going, he'd be getting up there. So the top three was Warshevsky, Del Campo, and then Diaz.
He is the guy finished on 10, which
and then very close behind was Dan Nimick, and he would have won it, but they had to tell him that all his own goals didn't count.
Oh man,
he got another one at the weekend.
I think he wins the category if you put all goals plus all sending offs. I think he wins it.
All goals, and just all goals, including his own goals. I think he would have won it. Yeah, he's scored so many goals, a lot of them from the spot. He scored own goals, and he's been sent off tons. It's been eventful. It's been a journey this season for him.
Toby is a guy we talked about, I think, when Vancouver FC was coming together, and he might have been I think he would have been a good pickup. Yeah,
nice big. I'm an old-fashioned guy, you know that. I like a big little combo. Big man heading it down to the little man to tuck home. That's why I thought Demir and Brian White was going to be fantastic together. Demir winning the headers, knocking them down. White tucks them away. Hasn't worked out.
No,
it's not something you see as prevalent in the modern game. Is that kind of big, small? We don't see front twos really as much in the modern game. But I mean, we won't go into too much more about end of season Vancouver stuff. It's disappointing how their second season ended, considering I feel they've played better. They've had a better squad. Last season they finished so strong, and this season it's been the opposite. Gut feeling, is Afshin back next year?
I think a couple of weeks ago, like I told you privately, I said, yeah, absolutely. I said, I'm not willing to use the Michaelism that he's on a Shigley peg at the moment. But I mean, based on what he said in that the pre-match interview,
which you can hear in the last episode,
it
it wasn't 100% confirmation.
Yeah,
It was very much open to.
It's very much the foundation has been laid here, and for me,
Yes.
for as long as I coach here, and whoever comes next, there's a foundation that's been laid.
Yeah.
That
As soon as you mention foundations, and even just the phrase "whoever comes next," you're
Yeah.
like, okay.
yeah, and
Martin Nash.
yeah,
I'll put that out there now. That's my
you,
vote.
you added it on the fan page or whatever as an option.
Yes.
Was it Cedric who started that conversation?
Rick started the poll, and I was like, "Oh, I'm adding Martin Nash in there."
Yeah.
And last I looked, he had a lot of votes.
And Marty, he was like an assistant coach for Jesse Marsh, or he was with Jesse Marsh at the Canada game.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I swear, unless I'm seeing old. No, I swear, I'm pretty sure he was just with the Canada
Oh.
with Team Canada. I don't know if it was as an assistant coach or an observatory role or.
I had a good chat with Martin a couple of weeks ago, so that's why he kind of fresh in my mind. He was at a couple of the Whitecaps games, so we had a really good chat in the food bit before the match as well. It was-
Now, if that were to
catch up.
happen, Michael, he would be setting CPL history, as I believe he would become the first coach,
Yes.
the first coach to return to the league after having coached somewhere
Yeah.
else.
And we've already got him doing a bumper for the show, so we're all sorted with that.
You probably have like a 15, 20-year-old bumper or a 15-year-old bumper from like.
Hi, I'm Martin Nash, captain of the Vancouver Whitecaps.
Up the
Cut that
USL.
out. I'll cut that out, just like I've got Max Crepeau going. Hi, I'm Maxime Crepeau of the Vancouver Whitecaps. Cut. No, you're not.
Oh man.
Some other quick questions then. Is Patrice Geyser back in Halifax?
Yeah, that's another hard one.
I think he will be now that they got sixth.
It's the same with Phil, though.
Phil's the one I'm not sure about.
Well, if he's not guaranteed next year, then maybe. But we've said this before. Valor, being owned by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers organization, there's no way that they're firing a coach where they're going to have to pay them.
No.
So if he's out of contract, maybe he is gone. If he's
Yeah.
as guaranteed, then I say no way he's gone. He was another guy, said different words, but very similar to what Afshin said when he was here after in the post game, the very fun post game after the 1-1 draw, where he was just like, yeah, I think, again, they had a crazy season where they went 7 games on the road to start the season as renovations were being done at their stadium. And he feels they recovered incredibly well. But he talked about, I don't know if he used the word foundations, but he talked about how the club is in a great place for this year to make the playoffs, or in the years ahead for the club to press on and to be a part of the postseason. So he is someone who I could see him going maybe more so than the other two, but it could be all three, could even be none, again, depending on the contractual situations. That I think is a huge factor for all of these clubs to consider.
None of these clubs have money. They're losing hand over fist. It's going to be the same in the NSL next year as well, which we'll talk about in the next part. But it's like the money's not there. Some of these clubs, it does feel it maybe needs a fresh direction. I've got to say, like I think Vancouver FC needs a fresh direction. I think.
You think they need a new direction?
Yes.
Okay.
Halifax, I know what Patrice is trying to do, and I believe in what he's trying to do. I think he gets one more year. And I think, I don't know who can come in and turn Valor around. That's the thing.
Mm.
And the danger is Valor are becoming an FC Edmonton.
Yes, I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
And in many ways as well. And
it feels like the whole Valor situation was what's his name? Scott Mitchell convinced the Blue Bombers that, like, here's some more dates for your stadium. Get on board now, ahead of what will be a significant time for football in this country, which is the 2026 World Cup. Make this investment now that will hopefully one day pay off. And they're like, yeah, we trust you, Scott, and we'll go along with you. And it hasn't gone well. I mean, when you talk to people from Winnipeg, just in terms of how they conduct themselves and how there's a lack of, just football culture and supporter culture understanding in terms of running the club.
Well, that's fascinating that you said that, because in the next part, we're going to hear from Diana Matheson. And one of the questions is about Desiree Scott. And she talked about, well, we don't have a team in Winnipeg yet, but we really want to get a team in Winnipeg. That's one of our prime markets. And when she said that, I was thinking, have you not seen what's happening at Valor? I would be steering clear of there right now.
Well, again, I think, and I don't know the options. I don't know what the university stadiums are like there. But like with all, like, we just spent however talking along, how significant stadium is for the Vancouver Whitecaps. For a football club, where you play is huge. And we talk about Willoughby, the lights, the lack of roof. If you don't have the right setup when it comes to that, you are limiting yourself, or you are creating barriers for people to engage. And obviously, playing in a CFL stadium in the CPL at this moment of its progression is a detriment. And so whether it's Valor FC playing somewhere that's more suitable, which obviously when you're owned by the Blue Bombers, they don't want to pay to play somewhere else because I think they own the stadium, or they have the lease agreement with the city that makes it advantageous for them to play there. But whether you're talking about them, or you're talking about an NSL, or you're talking about anything else, you need to get that right. And it feels like that's a significant part of the issues in Winnipeg. As an outsider, I know some of the supporters there, and I know they have significant concerns, so much to the point where some of the most ardent people don't have season tickets or only go to games occasionally now because they've been so frustrated with the way in which the club has been run. But yeah, I can see, of course, why NSL wants to be there. But
to be a total countrywide league, you have to hit in the prairies.
Yeah, and they want to get there.
But for me, if you're clever, you go into Saskatchewan, where the CPL haven't got into yet, and you get into the football market there.
Yeah, but talking about stadiums, as a critique of NSL, they're supposed to be playing out of McMahon Stadium in Calgary.
Yes,
which is now Atco isn't, Spruce Meadows maybe isn't perfect, doesn't tick all the boxes, even though it's, to me, I haven't been to Wanderers Ground yet. It's probably my favorite place to visit in terms of stadium within the league, even more so than going to the Island, which is also
me
nice.
too.
But playing at McMahon Stadium seems
to me that's insane.
It seems like you're setting yourself up for failure in the same way that Valor kind of has from an attendance and a atmosphere and an environmental perspective for your games and broadcasting.
You have to have a stadium that fans want to go to.
Yes,
that looks good on TV. And I know some folk be like, if I mention the press box again, it'd be like, oh, give it a fucking rest. It's only a press box. But if you haven't got a suitable press box, you're not going to attract media.
Yeah.
If you don't attract media, your league and your team's not going to get coverage.
Yeah. And then you talk about the way things look. That's another issue with Atletico Ottawa, right? Where the cameras are on one side and the people are on one side.
I was thinking that when we're talking about McMahon, I was like, oh, it's going to be even worse if it's like that there as well.
Yeah, it's like an ongoing version of COVID games, it's like looks like the stadium's empty.
Well, it was like East Fife's ground. It's only got the one stand, and the cameras go out from the stand. So we used to have an old. It looked like a Russian power station, but it was a power station that was opposite. It's been knocked down now, so now you've got a beautiful view of the water and the hills. But it looked like you were filming some game from the Soviet era in the 1970s.
That reminds me of my first trip to Centennial Park in Victoria, the UVic. The stadium with the buildings behind the university buildings behind it. I was just like, are we in Soviet era, like Eastern Bloc state, X, Y, or Z?
See, there's another stadium that you could bring bleachers in and have big crowds as well, because they did it for the Commonwealth Games and stuff. Obviously, I'm going back to Whitecaps here, but obviously short notice to try and get all this stuff brought in. Let's just finish the CPL chat quickly, and then we'll get to NSL in the next part.
Mm-hmm.
So, setting up the playoffs. The playing game is on Wednesday, as mentioned, and it's Pacific at York. Then Forge host Cavalry on Sunday at 1 p.m. in Hamilton to decide who hosts the championship game on November 9th. Ottawa then play the winner of the play-in game later on that day. Now, Cavalry finished second on 48 points, just 2 behind Forge in the end. And you know that's going to irk Tommy so much that it was so close, especially since they only lost 4 games all year and they drew a staggering 12.
12, yeah.
They've got the best defensive record as well. Forge had clinched it and they had put out a couple of poor performances in the last couple of games. So, I mean, they could have won it by more maybe if they had full strength teams or needed to.
And that's where you hope that, I mean, Bobby will feel like, yeah, he's resting players or giving other people an opportunity to show what they can do or whatever. But the inverse of that is that hopefully they've lost their form a little bit. When they go back and they play Cavalry in this game and they put out whatever their best 11 is on that day, hopefully they're a little bit out of sync and not quite as they're not clicking the way they have for most of the season, right?
Yeah, to me, that is always the risk of doing that, is you kill some momentum. If you've got the momentum, I don't know. And they're still a strong team. It's going to be a great game. I really hope Cavalry can get the job done. I'd love it to be at Spruce Meadows. I don't think I can make it through to it, but if you could, that'd be fantastic. And yeah, a tasty battle awaits. And last thing, just talking about like broadcast coverage and stuff, we'll just reiterate as well, if you missed the news, the final, the Canadian Championship for the North Star Shield, live on CBC Sports. And hopefully this can maybe be the start of another kind of broadcasting deal with CBC or something down the line. We'll go into that in a lot more detail when we do our end of season review as well. But it's great to have it out there and hopefully get eyeballs on the league and hopefully a great final for them as well. All the games this weekend were on YouTube, and it's interesting numbers because it's the first time we really get to see some numbers for live CPL games. And obviously we don't know what One Soccer are doing and stuff like that. So I had a look. Now, YouTube's weird. It has how many's watching live, and then the end result. Like if you clicked in 3-4 times during the game, it counts 4 views. So if you've come out, you've gone back in. If you flick between games or something. So at the time of recording this, Valor Cavalry, 1,800 views, Pacific Forge, 15, Ottawa Vancouver, 15, Wanderers York, 14. It's not fantastic numbers, and I'm basing that on what I know League One gets, which is about 12 to 1,500. Yeah. And it's like, ooh, it does make you question how many folk are watching on One Soccer and just how sustainable is that to keep a channel going.
Yeah, but this doesn't count the people who are watching on Fubo.
Or on the Fubo and One Soccer.
One Soccer app or on
Telus.
Yeah. So it isn't the overall number, but yeah, obviously you would hope, you would wish, you long for those numbers to be higher. And your concerns over what is the broadcast reach, right, is a significant part of the conversation about all this kind of stuff. That
it just worries me because we need One Soccer. We need that channel. What they do for Canadian soccer is what should have been getting done by the big networks years ago. And if it had, we'd probably have a CPL before that. And it's like, it just worries me just how they can sustain that when they're kind of cut away from Media Pro next year. But
my understanding is that their legal fight with Bell and Rogers, there will be a good resolution to that. That will be announced, I think, probably not too far down the road. And they are working at what's going to happen for broadcast next year as well, which I don't know any of the details, but the CBC, the final being on CBC is a good sign. Yeah, it will be interesting to see how that all evolves.
But on that note, that is it for the CPL chat. We're moving along swiftly. 2 parts down, 2 hours down. Is that swift? It is for us. We're turning our attention now to the women's game, the Northern Super League, and we'll be back chatting about that and hearing from Diana Matheson after this episode's Britpop song.
Hi, I'm Dario Zanata, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this song, it's our Britpop song for this episode, released on October the 17th, 1994. English band Supergrass, and that was their song Caught by the Fuzz. And if folk aren't used to UK slang, it doesn't mean that they trapped their pubic hair in a door. It just means they've maybe been caught by the police. In fact, the song is about being caught by the police as a young kid smoking some dope, and the police bust him and invite his parents along, and he knows what trouble he's in. Supergrass, one of the bands, I think, Zach, that you really associate with Britpop. You've got Blur, Pulp, Oasis, and then Supergrass for their song All Right, which to me is actually one of their weakest songs, but it was their biggest hit. Do you remember Supergrass? You're looking at me like you don't.
The name sounds familiar, and if I heard the music, I might.
We are young, we are green.
Oh yeah.
Our teeth, nice and clean.
Yeah,
that was All Right. The song, it was all right. And Supergrass, Caught by the Fuzz there. The CD single is tremendous. It didn't actually chart in the UK. It didn't even make the top 100. There's a B-side on the single that I'm going to play in the next show because it is also one of my favourite Supergrass songs. This part, though, getting back to the football chat, we're going to turn our attention to the women's game, the Northern Super League that gets underway in 6 months' time, Zach.
It's coming quick.
And it feels there's a lot that we don't know yet.
Yeah.
But I'm sure
I think there's a lot they know.
Yeah, well, it's like ducks in the water. It's paddling like crazy underneath, cool, calm in what you see publicly. So I think there is a lot of work to get done by the 6 clubs. They know that. Now, some big news that was announced this week in the women's game. Canada women's national team announced their coaching, which we talked about in the last show for the upcoming friendlies in Spain. And Andy Spence continuing to lead the team. But there is a new interim technical assistant, lady we know very well on the show, Vancouver Whitecaps girls elite head coach Katie Collar. We'll hear from her in the next part. But also coming in, joining the staff on an interim basis in a team support role, is Project 8 and Northern Super League CEO and co-founder Diana Matheson. And they had a conference call with the announcement. So I'm splitting this into a couple of parts for you to listen to. What I decided to do was take all the Diana questions and put them in one segment and the questions to Katie in another. For the Diana ones, I just wanted to have the stuff that we talked about with the Northern Super League. So there's a lot of interesting little tidbits came out from our chat with her. So go stick the kettle on, grab your biscuit of choice, sit back and enjoy Diana Matheson.
many people are excited for what you're doing next year with the NSL, and to see you with the national team again is even more of a surprise. How important is it to kind of forge these connections between the national team and its players and the upcoming NSL? And are you maybe using it to take advantage of maybe convincing a couple players to cross the border or cross the pond to join the league?
Well, that's a great question. Yeah, to answer the first part, the connection between the national team players and staff and Canada Soccer and what we're doing at the NSL has obviously been integral since the beginning. I think I've said it before. Christine was one of my first calls out there to get her to be a voice of what's happening. Obviously, the recent announcement that she's an investor. We've tried really intentionally to keep the women's national team pool in the loop. So I think I've tried to get in front of them maybe every 4 or 5 months just to give them updates on, since the beginning. I would have last seen, oh gosh, time is flying these days. I would have last seen them in May, I guess. So it's good timing for another check-in. And every time I've been in the environment, the players are always so supportive of what we're doing and just curious for updates and learn more about the business model, learn more about the owners, learn more about the training environment. So on the one side, the exciting opportunity for me to join another camp and just support how I can is obviously an honor. But on the NSL side, obviously we're excited that if, I'll have days with players too, where if players want to chat about clubs, chat about the league, I can just give them as much information as possible that we have. So of course we'll be talking to them about the league for sure.
Diana, you have a big project, the NSL, starting next year. What are the updates? What's coming in the next few weeks, month? Can we get a schedule soon? Maybe some stadium announcements? What's happening with the league? It's very exciting.
That's a great question, Har. And please know we're getting announcements out as soon as things are finalized. You folks know how it is. We're building the plane as we fly towards next year. I'll try and address all of those. Most stadium announcements are out. Those that haven't been out will be finalized as soon as they can. There might be a few situations where, like PWHL, some teams are looking to have a few games at a different venue outside their primary venue. So those are just taking a bit longer. Schedule, I think very soon we'll be able to tell you when our opening game is, final, and any transfer windows. I know that's been an important piece of information. We need to get out into market just for players and player signings too. The full season, the reality of that is, we share venues with other teams. We're either second, third, or fourth tenant in some cases. So we have to wait for some of those other leagues, and specifically CFL, TSN, some of the broadcast pieces to be finalized, and they don't do theirs until December. So the reality is we're not going to be able to tell fans where every game is until probably the end of January, early February. So that's going to be the reality for year one, which I think still has us on better footing than NWSL through its first 9 years. I can remember getting well into preseason and not knowing the schedule. So it's a starting point. We'll get better, but at least you'll know the parameters of when the season's going to start and stop. I think there's 2 more teams to announce their coaches, so that'll be coming. And then obviously the big one outside of that is players, right? And it is the case that clubs have started signing players. So I know announcements are coming soon. I might actually be missing a couple announcements next week. I think there's going to be an announcement the week I get back that I'm looking forward to. I'll be back in town for that. So those will start to come as well too. And then the reality is that player announcements will just keep coming until, February, March, because we operate, as in a global market. All the players out there are under contract right now. So there'll probably be some incredible Canadian stories signed early that you'll start to learn about. And then the reality is the clubs actually get more leverage over players and agents the closer we get to season. So there'll be some patience of clubs to sign players too. To sign the strongest possible rosters across the league from day one that kick off in April. And then we're in market, and then we're competing against the rest of the world, and our clubs in the league will look to strengthen their rosters every transfer window after that. So yeah, the most announcements that will come will definitely be just players, and that'll start pretty quick here.
When you look at the youth side of the game here, the U17s haven't qualified for this World Cup. The U20s struggled a little bit when they were at theirs. How do you see the NSL playing a role in helping that? Obviously, as a new league, you don't want it just full of young players, but you need to have that platform for them to play. Are you looking to have something that the teams have a set number of under 21 minutes, like say the CPL do?
Yeah, good question. To start, no. The only roster limitations we have are on total size, 20 to 25, and up to 7 internationals per club. And the reasoning was, and the principle we had, and we use this to guide most of our decisions like this, was to allow as much flexibility for the clubs as possible in early years in building their rosters. Because again, global competition, we're competing against all these other leagues, and we just want to allow them the most room there to find the best players. And obviously having majority Canadian players on the rosters was important to us. And I think you're going to see that on the field as well, but no underage limits to start. The view of this was always just, we have so many players that come up through our soccer pyramid, and our whole role was to add the top of the pyramid so that players don't just fall off the cliff they were falling off. And we know with that, we were adding the professional environment in 6 markets across the country. And then, we'll expand to 8, 10 as we grow. With that, we know our clubs all understand the importance of building out an academy system. So there's something under that. With that, we understand the importance of working with the tier of soccer underneath us, your League Ones, your U Sports. We're strong believers that having this league is going to, in the long run, have more Canadian kids choose to stay in Canada and attend Canadian universities versus the traditional path of going down through the NCAA. So that's kind of how we see our role playing out. And then, above us and with the national team, that's a super important conversation too. What are the pathways we're building out? What's the national strategy for girls and women's pathway? And those conversations are already going on with Canada Soccer. There's a group diving into it. I know there's going to be more work between us and other stakeholders in Canada Soccer early next year. Because with the league coming in, I think we all have the opportunity to say, what is the ideal pathway or pathways for girls and women in Canada, and have that national strategy, but of course have regional execution, because we're so different coast to coast, and the realities are different in Vancouver to Calgary to Winnipeg to Atlantic Canada. It might need to look different, but I think everyone needs to know what those pathways look like. So we're working on that behind the scenes and having all the right conversations to make sure, as you said, our future results in the years to come at the youth level are back where they should be and deserve to be.
Looking at pathways, I've been involved with UBC for nearly 10 years now, so I've seen so much talent come through and nowhere to go, and then that's the end of their career. I know it's a lot to try and get done, and it probably won't happen in year 1, but are you looking to maybe try and offer the younger players a hybrid so they can play in the league, get their education? Are you looking to maybe add a U Sports draft somewhere down the line?
Good questions. Yeah. But to your point, no draft in year 1, maybe in the future. Definitely a capacity thing. And again, global market drafts are hard to pull off in a global market. In soccer, you can see the NCAA has recently gotten away from those, but it doesn't mean we might look to build that out with U Sport if both parties think that would be a benefit. We do have already, we'll have, similar to what CPL started with, some youth permits. There'll be sort of that developmental player you're talking about can come into clubs for a certain amount of games, not be fully professional, but get experience. So we'll have that built in to try and get those other development players, as you say, opportunities at the pro level and possibly across different clubs. So that will exist. And then I know our clubs, this has come up a lot in the last 2 weeks, actually. Our clubs understand the importance of universities, education, and the university system. So there's definite interest there from us and our owners to build out whatever the ideal partnership is with U Sport or with individual universities. And I know some of our clubs and markets are already in those conversations.
Just maybe a quick question about Desi. It obviously announced a retirement this morning. Will Desi be one of those people that you go after like you did with Christine?
Yeah, Desiree Scott, I mean, you folks all know, absolute legend, one of the best ever to put on a Canadian jersey. I think whoever's wearing the number 11 after that will have big shoes to fill. Yeah, she's literally been the heartbeat of the Canadian team. And I think anyone who's played with her or watched her play or been able to coach her knows that. The heartbeat on the field but off the field too. She is just she's a powerhouse on and off the field. And it was a pleasure to play with her. She's had an incredible career. I know she's just announced she's wrapping it up for KC. She's been one of the players I know NSL clubs have been in contact with. I know working hard to try and convince her to maybe play another year. She's been planning this retirement for a while. So any fans out there, feel free to reach out to Desi and give her a nudge. We'll see if we can get her to stick around for a year. She might not love that I'm saying that. Don't tell her I said that. I mean, she's incredible. And I've been in contact with her since the beginning of the league too. She's always curious to know how she's going. She wants to be involved in some way for sure, whether on the field or off the field. Obviously, key to her heart is the city of Winnipeg. So as the league starts to look at expansion clubs too, Winnipeg was already a key market for us, but I know Desiree will be a part of bringing a club to that market too. And I know would love to be involved in expansion market there. So I guarantee you won't see the last of Desi here in Canadian soccer. Her legacy for Canada, on the international stage might be wrapping up, but I know it's not done in Canadian soccer. So it's for me just a pleasure to know that incredible woman.
The NSL is not just to create opportunities for players, but also for coaches as well. When you look at everything that Katie's been able to accomplish with the Whitecaps in the last couple of years, how important is it to kind of use what she's been able to do, her story, as another example of what can happen now with a league coming in and potentially even keeping her around, not just with the national team as she's doing right now, but potentially with the Rise or the Foothills or any other team that is going into the NSL next year.
Yeah, it's hugely important, isn't it? It's kind of that. I feel like that's our joint responsibility, and I'm saying like us on this side of the call and you on that side of the call. And we're showing up, as you said, to create the opportunities and create jobs. I wanted a job, women in business, women coaching, referees, on the sport medicine side, like folks like Melissa Tancredi, all the next generation people. It is about providing those opportunities so we can, just deepen the pools and enhance the quality of already world-class women's soccer folks in Canada. And then, as you said, the visibility and actually getting the awareness and telling those stories of those incredible people is so important. So I know us at the NSL are going to try and do the best we can to supplement that with our own content in every form we can. We'll do the best with our budget to get as much as we can out there. And you folks too, you're a huge part of that. So thank you for asking that question and covering it, because there's Katie's story. There's so many stories out there that are just these incredible women that have gone everywhere and landed where they are. And you'll see more of that too as we start to sign the players. Like I said, player announcements start pretty soon. And the first few might not be, your national team stars, but I guarantee you all these women have incredible stories, and the places they've played or the decisions they've made or the impact they've had already on their communities or the world. It is ridiculous what some of these women are doing. So, and I know these conversations are happening at Canada Soccer too. As I said, there's a working group talking about women and girls soccer right now. And there's a lot of recommendations about how Canada Soccer can help tell these stories too.
Project 8 Northern Super League CEO Diana Matheson there, giving us quite a good insight into some Northern Super League stuff there, Zach. We'll unpack some of it for the rest of this part. A lot of little interesting tidbits we got. First of all, the first player announcements are imminent. Mm-hmm. But she said, don't expect any big name national team players off the bat. And I think that's fair. I think a lot of the clubs are probably going to want to announce some local players, maybe some young players that's come through locally. Like, you've got to think a Foothills or Blizzard player in Calgary, and some Whitecaps girls elite players like Geneva Hernandez-Gray, Jimmy Perot here in Vancouver. Mm-hmm. And the bigger names, maybe at the end of their seasons, if there's anyone in the NWSL just now, you obviously can't really announce that till the season's over. Maybe some players that's playing over in Europe just now, maybe in the Scandinavian leagues that'll be wrapping up as well. I don't think we're going to be getting Canadian national team players in year one, unless there's some big funding coming in, or maybe a couple of players maybe at the end of their career. But I mean that makes sense that they're coming in. It's good that the first announcements and the final two head coaches are going to be very soon, Zach.
Like we said, there's I think a lot of things that are done already behind the scenes, and they'll be announced in a timely fashion. Like you said, some of these are probably tied to other leagues and other contracts expiring and all that kind of stuff. But yeah,
Plus, you also want to stagger it to keep the interest in the league going on a consistent basis.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It is a little bit interesting to hear the potential for there to not be very many national team players.
I think there will be national team players, but it could be like, for example, here in Vancouver, Brianne Reid, Dominican Republic national team player. So you're going to have national team quality.
Yeah. Sorry,
not necessarily Canadian national.
I meant Canadian national team players.
Yeah.
I know we talked with Har about Sophie Schmidt, and I think Har indicated that she has a year left on her deal, where she's at right now. And
I mentioned like Desiree Scott in the last part. She just announced her retirement.
Yeah.
So she is out. Even if there had been a Winnipeg team, it's like she's not coming. It was also mentioned that the schedule's likely going to drop late January or early February. And Diana says that's ahead of what the NWSL has been for many years when she was part of it as well. And a big reason for that is some teams are not the first choice tenants in the venues, so they have to wait for other leagues to get their schedule out. TV deciding stuff as well, and there's other events. So there's a lot of factors going into it. She also mentioned, and this is the interesting bit for me around venues. So all home venues will be confirmed soon, but some teams are going to have home games at more than one home venue.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if you and I have talked about this, but even though there's been lots of talk against this, I've heard some people this week talk about how, the Rise's first game is going to be at BC Place.
I could see that.
The first game is going to be so big, and they're going to need to have...
What I could also see them doing it is with Christine Sinclair as a co-owner, you could have a big ceremony for her, but she would hate. But it could be like a Hall of Fame induction and goodbye, new stage of your career.
Yeah.
I know, like she said, I hope this is my last goodbye last week in Vancouver when she was at the press conference. But I mean, she doesn't have to be on the pitch. She just has to be there at the start to wave, maybe say something to the fans, and that would get the fans in.
Yeah.
The place would make sense.
Have you heard that as well? Or is that
I hadn't heard that, but we were actually talking about that after the Girls Elite game, that it would make sense to do something at BC Place for the first game as a big splash if you brought someone like Christine in. Otherwise, I don't know that it would be a big splash.
Yeah.
I mean, we all want it to succeed, but realistically, I don't know that the numbers are there that would do that. I think they'd rather have a packed Swan Guard, say, because also, if you're having multiple venues for some teams, that opens up the Whitecaps to have some dates at Swan Guard for the dates that they can get.
Yeah.
But then you look at maybe the Calgary side would be like, well, we don't maybe have all the games at McMahon, we have some somewhere else. Although Calgary Dinos, their turf and their stadium is not highly thought of university circle, so that would not necessarily be a good thing. So Spruce Meadows could be an option maybe for the odd game. Halifax, where will they play? AFC Toronto, the worst name of the six. It's like they might not have York Stadium all the games. I'm not averse to them moving it about. You don't want it to be a traveling road show because that devalues it then.
Yeah, obviously it's best if you're rooted in the community, in the same place. But again, when you're trying to get something off the ground, sometimes you have to get innovative, and this sounds like this is one of the ways that they will do that. So I don't think we're so limited in this country when it comes to venues for like football.
I mean, this Whitecaps thing is just ably demonstrated that.
Yeah. But I'm looking forward to hearing where all these teams are playing, and and then I guess where some are playing multiple places.
Yeah, and I mean, things can change as it goes on as well. Something that I asked Diana there. So in the first league, the NSL is not going to have any young player minutes like the CPL does. So for the CPL, all clubs have to have 2,000 minutes of under 21 players and
under 21 Canadian.
Oh, yes, sorry, under 21 Canadian. So most of them go right down to the wire. A couple of teams smash it out the park every year, Vancouver FC, Pacific being two of them. But yeah, they won't have in the NSL any young players' minutes threshold because for the first year, building the rosters, they need to attract players from a very competitive global market. And it's going to be tough for them to do that if they have to concentrate on young ones as well, because players are going to want to come over and play. Clubs will have some permit players like the CPL where they can play a certain number of games and continue their education. But there will not be a U Sports draft in year one, and maybe not ever, because the NWSL has scrapped that, and Diana said we're maybe moving away from that system. I'm fine with that. Just let the best players get noticed in U Sport and then sign to deals. And I do like the fact that they might have a permit thing where they can do like what Eric Lajeunesse did. Come in, start the season with Pacific, play up until August, come back and play for UBC.
They're going to have some type of mechanism to, or some kind of regulations around what does that look like and who can. So is it going to be like whoever recruits from wherever, like just open recruiting? So you're fighting against each other. So maybe then you're driving up wages, which might not be helpful for the league.
Well, yeah. And there's also probably going to be some markets more favorable than others.
Well, exactly.
Because it's like, who's not going to want to be with the Rise?
Yeah.
So if they're going to be one of the strongest teams in it.
Yeah, they're going to be like the Forge or the Cavalry of this league for sure, because of their coming in with an existing and the existing setup, existing youth program, all that stuff feeding into. But no, like, is it going to be a regional thing? It's just like, okay, the schools in this area, players go to.
Oh, actually, there's a thing as well I should have asked now that you've mentioned regional, because it's like, are we going to have like territories?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Because I mean, yeah. You would hope that the Alberta schools would want to be in the Alberta club and the BC schools for the BC team.
You'd hope. You
would hope. And I mean, in the women's game, the BC universities have been very strong for years and years and years. So that sets the Rise up nicely. But yeah, I think the draft is an outmoded model. But as long as there's a proper mechanism, what I don't want is the U Sport girls to be overlooked. Just with trying to bring players in that's playing pro overseas or whatever. Because from commentating at UBC from 2017 and from watching UBC and SFU from 2011, I've seen so many players on both the men and the women's side come through the college game with nowhere to go. And that's the pinnacle of their career. That's the highest that they play. There's been so many good, talented girls come through UBC, Trinity Western, that need to be in this new league, and hopefully there's a mechanism to get them there. Dan also said youth is important to the league. They hope that clubs will have their own or work with existing academies, and that is the only way forward. I think in the early days, having your own academy is risky with the money that you're putting in, because we know how expensive it is to run that.
Yeah, not cheap at all.
No. It's hope that clubs can work with local universities as well, which has always been what I've been asking about, to get these players an education whilst getting to play pro. It's something MLS have done very well with their online studying, and hopefully something can get put in place. Diana mentioned talks have taken place and the groundwork's getting laid for that. But I mean, it all goes back to what we said, it's 6 months away. So much to do in such a short period of time.
Yes. And that's where I think there's a little concern, because like you said, you don't see everything that's going on. It's like a duck in water, like you said, or like maybe it's more like an iceberg where you're just seeing just the very little bit on the top, and there's a whole lot going on below the surface. But I mean, yeah, based on how things went for the Canadian Premier League, there's a lot that needs to be done, and there's not a ton of time for them to get it all done. So it would be interesting to see if it all just kind of comes together, or
Well, I mean, the will's there. Diana's very confident about it. I mean, you can't not listen to her talk about this and not be enthused by the league and all the players, all the senior players as well. And she was asked, "Oh, are you going to try and sell the league to the national team players in this camp?" So she's not going to go out of her way to do it. But if they want to have discussions with her, she's there to have them. And I mean, I think year one might be a bit of a challenge in all aspects of this and growing pains. And we saw it in the CPL. But it's great that we're getting a little bit more information. And as I said, you need to keep this coming out because this momentum has to keep going. There has to be stuff every couple of weeks throughout the country, all these announcements, keep the media interested, keep the fans interested. And yeah, in 6 months' time, we'll have a new pro league. And I can't wait for it. So that is it for the NSL chat. It's not it for the women's soccer chat, though. We're going to talk a little bit more in the next part as we look at both the men and the women's national teams. It's been a busy little period for them and a busy little period to come. We'll be back chatting about all of that after I'm going to bring you, Zach, a special song. In lieu of the weather conditions, I'm going to bring you my favourite song, all about rain.
Hi, I'm Katie Collar, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Between lightning and thunder, 3 seconds the gap. A warm candle glow keeps this woodroom from black. My cat, she sleeps on an old clipping mat, purring out echoes of faint pitter-pat as the rain pours down in the yard. Rain, a most haunting sound. Rain makes beautiful music, and rain brings peace upon all whom it falls. My subconscious and I are back on speaking terms. He's sending me colors and beautiful words, and far, far away are the harsh city folk. I'm surrounded by country, surrounded by night, as the rain pours down in the yard. Rain, a most haunting sound. Rain makes beautiful music, and rain brings peace upon all whom it falls.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio, 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it is genuinely one of my all-time favourite songs from Martin Stevenson and the Dainties from their debut album Boat to Bolivia, released in 1988. That was Rain. Absolutely beautiful song. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I do. It's a really good album, actually. Highly recommend checking that out as well. Maybe have that as an album of the month next year. Well, turn our attention to the women's national team now. They're about to go and play in Spain. As mentioned, Andy Spence is back as interim head coach, and Katie Collar is coming in as interim technical coach. Great to see the Whitecaps girls elite head coach rewarded for her hard work in this way. She's going to be working on the technical side, putting together the game tapes and the prep and stuff.
Oh, I think Katie Collar has done tremendous work for the Whitecaps program, and yeah, like you said, sort of a meritocracy in terms of her, being able to be involved in this way, and that's great to see. we've talked about her role. What's her continuing role in Vancouver, and will she be rewarded in that same way, in some way, shape, or form? And time will tell on that, obviously. But yeah, happy for her, and I think it's a good opportunity for her, and a good, like you said, reward for all of her hard work.
So delighted for her. But let's hear some audio just now from Katie Collar talking about how this all came about and the role that she's going to play with the women's national team. You can't get away from me, Katie.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. You kept that quiet on Tuesday night?
Yeah, it was coming out the next day.
How did this all come about for you then? And like, how did Canada Soccer get in touch? And I guess you didn't have to think twice about taking this opportunity.
Yeah, it's super exciting, honestly. You started interviewing me 2 years ago in League One, and I just super excited and honored about the opportunity. Over the last couple of weeks, really, through CONCACAF, we've had a lot of success, and some conversations started around this camp and building the staff around this camp. So just, an opportunity for me to continue to grow and bring some of the expertise that I've learned through the period with the Whitecaps. And we're super excited to have this opportunity with Canada Soccer.
We've talked a lot about how the young girls have grown in the last couple of years and all the different tournaments. Looking at your growth, when you look at the Katie that came into League One in 2022 and where you are now, the old cliche is you learn more from the games that you lose than the ones that you win. So what have you learned in particular in the last sort of year about yourself, and how has your game grown for this opportunity?
Oh, I think there's been so many learnings, from start to finish. We started as a super young team in a league that we weren't necessarily expected to do well in, and we had a lot of success there. I think a lot of what I've learned about the game is that it's such a balance of the team culture and belief around it and the mentality of a squad going into a tournament, paired with, the expertise of the technical, tactical adaptability, the scouting, the game planning, and being able to bring all of that together in one moment and one game or one tournament. I think, through my experiences over the last 3 years, that's been the biggest learning for me is how to properly manage those moments and how to bring those things together, with the key focus on, the technical, tactical detail, but also the big focus on the culture and the belief of the players and the ability to compete in those big moments. So, for me personally, I think I've learned just as much or more from the players that I've worked with and now played against than they've probably learned from me. But I think, the opportunity for me to continue to grow and take that next step and challenge myself after the opportunity that I've had with CONCACAF and, starting in League One 2 years ago and really making some quick progress. Again, I'm very honored and excited.
Hey, Katie, same thing as Michael. We just talked to you on Tuesday, but I kind of wanted to ask how excited you are for this challenge that you have ahead of you now, being with the national team. You're coming obviously from a completely different sort of environment, and like you mentioned, culture of developmental, of working with young players, and now being with some of the top players in the country and in the world right now. So how excited are you with that challenge?
I could not be more excited, honestly. I think I've said this to a couple of people, but this experience to be able to play against already some of the top players in the world, hosting Christine Sinclair, Jessie Fleming, some of the ones with San Diego at BC Place, and having the opportunity to coach in that environment has definitely made me hungrier. I think, it's given me a taste of what that next level is like. And I think now just, the timing of the opportunity just coming off of CONCACAF, the timing of the opportunity going into a professional league next year for women in this country. I couldn't be more excited about the opportunity to take this step and be able to learn ahead of the next opportunities for next year. So, super excited. My mom asked me the other day, are you nervous? And I said, I was coaching teenagers against Christine Sinclair. I don't know if I could ever be nervous again. So honestly, just super excited and again, super honored to be a part of the staff.
I'm just wondering, what's your role going to be as a technical assistant? What will you be doing and how will you be helping out the team when you're in Spain?
The key role is supporting on the technical, tactical side. So, we've already been in touch as a technical team in preparation for the camp, We've done a lot of the scouting and preparation for, the sessions leading in. We do have 3, key sessions ahead of the game. So a lot of my role will be, the technical, tactical support on field, and then helping the behind the scenes in terms of, keeping a good environment and helping, within like some of the details of communication between staff and all of those pieces that, a typical assistant would be doing on the camp. I think, what I bring in is some more experience or different experience within different parts of the game. So I think bringing my technical expertise to the field, and then looking at helping that or continuing to help the culture off the field within the staff.
It's obviously a very, if I could say, transitional time for the coaching staff. Obviously, Andy and Jen and Neil are staying around, but you and Diana and Maurice as well are coming into this camp. I'm just wondering, is there maybe a little bit of, not reliance, but leaning on the squad, seeing as it's a very familiar squad, I think, for most people, the 21 that you guys have brought in to Spain. I'm just wondering if just maybe the dynamics of coming in to a situation like this where, everyone's more or less familiar with each other, bar the coaching staff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think after such a great showing at the Olympics, the players are in a good place, it seems. And I think as a team, they've got a great culture. They've got a great environment going in. So there's a lot of really experienced players and great leadership within that team. So I think, molding that with the experience that now we're bringing in with the coaching staff, and continuing to look at this window as an opportunity to test ourselves against one of the top teams, if not the top team in the world. I think it's really important window, regardless of some of the moving pieces. So I think there is definitely a level of this squad being experienced, them having come together and most of them playing and featuring in the Olympics, and looking at this window as another opportunity to get them together and to continue to build off of what they've already done.
Katie Collar there, interim technical coach, as the women go down to play in Spain. I can definitely see her involved with the national team at maybe U17, U20 level as head coach going forward as well, with the work that she's done here out in Calgary in the past. So wish her all the very best. That is it for the football chat. It's not it for the show. We'll finish with this episode's wavelength. We're going back to 2020. And a song from Santa Clarita, California band, State Waste. This is from their album, Useless. And this is Punk Rock Football Player.
Try and stop me, you won't get very far. You won't get very
State Waste, punk rock football player, bit of oomph for the Whitecaps, hopefully for Wednesday night. Get the ball, score a goal, be a punk rock football player.
There you go. And a good place to do that is in Portland.
Yes. Maybe I'll just come and play this outside their hotel.
At what time?
For the whole time that they get down there. And then they'll say, we never got any sleep, and that's why we lost the game. And I'll be like, oh, and I backfired on me big time. That is it, though, for the show. It's been another long one. Just before we go, though, Zach, any final thoughts from you? Anything that you've learned this week?
Oh, anything I learned? No, I'll just say it was and we talked about this in the last 2 weeks. It was good to be a part of the memorial service for Javi Maltez. I got to officiate it, which was unique because I don't think I've done that for any of my buddies in football.
You'll get mine soon enough.
Oh, Michael, you always talk about such joyful things. But no, so it was good to hang out with Ozzy and his family, and a couple of people were there. Pej and Anna were there.
I've not seen them for ages.
Yeah, and they both shared. There was a slideshow that Javi's son had made, and lots of photos from games and stuff, and a bunch from trips that he had gone on, especially with Ozzy and Pej and Anna. And I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this, but Pej got up and said, you saw these pictures. This is a trip we went on, and it was like we went to watch the Whitecaps play away to LAFC, and the four of us were there, and some other people were there, whatever. And he was just like, it was so amazing. It was just a great trip in general. And we got to the game, and the game started, and it was amazing. Like the Whitecaps scored this early goal, and it was incredible.
That game.
Yeah. No, but so he's like, and like people, we were cheering and screaming so loud, and other people came and joined us, and other people who were Canadian or whatever, the people just came and hung out with us, and it was like so exciting, and it started so well and was going so well, and then of course it all fell apart, and it ended in that 6-1 defeat. And then he just kind of said, it makes me think of kind of Javi's life, because Javi's life was so meaningful and full of so much joy and so many good times. And it was kind of thing that ended not in the way it should have, and ended too quickly, kind of like that Whitecaps game for them on that trip, whatever. And then Anna, shared shared as well, shared some stories, and spoke of how Javi was kind of like a big brother to her and all that kind of stuff. And and then also Mass was there, so it's always good to see him. So if you knew Javi, if you know Ozzy, make sure you reach out and just connect with Ozzy. I know he's been really appreciative. His family's been really appreciative of the support and the connecting. And as I shared on the day, I think a really big part of grieving well is to share our stories of those we've lost.
Oh yeah,
it really helps, especially the closest family members and loved ones, to have other people share their stories. And I know I've experienced that in my own life in different ways throughout the course of my life. And so yeah, and it was really, really good to be a part of that. And it's sad and tragic, but really good to be a part of that gathering, and kind of be with the family as they're on this journey together. So yeah. On a footballing note, I don't know if we talked about this much, but Vancouver FC has a U19 team that's playing in the Fraser Valley this year. I mean, we talked about it long time ago.
Yep, they're in the FASL. Yeah, because we had Todd May in the show.
Yes, right, of course. So if you want to, you can find their games are online, right, on the Fraser Valley site or whatever. If you're feeling like you don't have any football in the next couple of weeks, if football kind of ends for you, there's some local football. There's no League One right now. There's some local football you can go watch.
Fingers crossed the Whitecaps can get things done in Portland, bring some happy news to a not happy fan base. Give us a follow on Twitter, AFTN Canada, AFTN Soccer on Instagram, AFTN Canada on YouTube. And we will be back with another episode soon. Until then, thanks for listening. Take care. And as always, Mon the Caps.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
Still some time. It's not the final score. We need more.
et